Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Ugran and Kasparian with you guys. So we got a hell of a show for you today. Of course, wars everywhere, Venezuela, but that has apparently encouraged people to go to war with Iran even more. Great, looking forward to it, / absolutely not. So we're gonna get to that in a little bit. More updates on Venezuela, but really important updates because I am beginning to change my mind on how involved Israel is. Interesting,
fascinating.
Okay, and then most importantly, I say because I'm so fascinated by it, is a clip from Megyn Kelly's show that we're gonna do later in the program. I think it's telling on several fronts, but there's one part of it that I need you to know because it is so important. So we'll share that a little bit later. She basically admitted something that we've kind of been saying all this time, but no one has ever said out loud. So can't wait for that one. But let's start with more wars.
Well, we begin with the increased likelihood that the United States could carry out more strikes against Iran.
Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush.
You're lying.
The Islamic Republic does not represent the great Iranian people. President Trump continues to demonstrate historic leadership on Iran. So why Jeb Bush is now praising Donald Trump? And why? Is it because Jeb Bush woke up and became a lot better on stuff? No, it's because Donald Trump is finishing off what was the 7th country on General Wesley Clark's list of 7 countries that were to be toppled.
7 countries that were to be toppled on behalf of Israel, I might add. And the fact that Jeb Bush, a notable neocon who Trump just humiliated on the national stage in 2016 and destroyed his chances of winning that election, the fact that he is now praising Trump is not a good sign, especially for the America Firsters who are not in favor of the neocons. And now Israeli media, Cenk, is reporting that the United States is considering intervention in Iran amid ongoing protests that are taking place there, some of which are drummed up by the Mossad and CIA. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's 2 super interesting parts of this story. One is I'm beginning to change my mind on how involved Israel was on Venezuela. And 2 is what kind of disaster are we going to have, not just about with Iran and Venezuela, guys, but with this attitude that Trump has now, that he's kind of invincible and can do any kind of military excursion. I believe that's gonna lead us into an epic disaster. So let's give you the facts first and then we'll discuss.
Now, I should note that Trump's approval rating has increased following the effective kidnapping of Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, of course, and his wife, Maduro, the former leader of Venezuela, and so that's likely emboldening him. And if you pay close attention to Israeli media, as I do, because they actually report the truth when it comes to what's being plotted for the United States and additional interventions, well, the Jerusalem Post claims that there are indications that Washington is weighing some targeted intervention to assist the protest movement to get over the top of the Iranian regime. Now, there are ongoing protests in Iran. I'll give you more information on that in just a minute. Now, Tehran's weak attempts to recover from the June attacks, the protest movement, and America's quick ability to potentially influence the direction of Venezuelan policy by using military force without having to mount a large ground invasion may have changed the calculations, to which I say that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. If you compare Venezuela and Iran, well, really, there is no comparison. Iran has a formidable military, and the idea that you just go in, take out the Ayatollah, and everything will change in Iran for the betterment of Israel's expansionist policies, that's the real goal here, is ridiculous to me. And Israel thinks that the toppling of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela does increase the likelihood that the Trump administration will be willing to do this. Israel is also checking if the removal of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro will make action against the Iranian regime possible. Now, I should note that Netanyahu immediately held a special security meeting after the US carried out its actions in Venezuela. So they're definitely plotting, there's no question about that. And the Jerusalem Post further reports that by themselves, the protests in Iran, okay, the protests are likely still viewed by Israel and the US as insufficient to topple Khamenei. However, following the abduction of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, this may have changed. Now, former Defense Minister Benny Gantz explicitly called for Israel and the US to intervene in Iran on behalf of the Iranian protesters to either cause the regime to surrender or to topple it. And by the way, let me just remind you about the protests, which sure, I mean, I have no doubt that there is dissent among the Iranian population toward the current Iranian regime. That doesn't mean that the Iranian people would like the United States and Israel to invade and install a puppet government on behalf of Israel, which would benefit Israel and not the Iranian people. And I should note that the Mossad has publicly admitted on Twitter to assisting Iranian protesters in the field. Iran has claimed it has even arrested one of these agents, Mossad agents. And one other concerning and possibly foreshadowing element to this story is what President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, saying that if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, like Trump would like to be able to do here in the United States, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So Cenk, I think that at this point, I don't know how imminent it is, but knowing how much influence Israel has over our country, our government, knowing how persistent they are, and knowing how empty-headed Trump is when it comes to pretty much everything, but especially foreign policy these days, I think this is gonna happen under his watch.
Yeah, so some version of it's gonna happen. So let's talk about that in a second. First, I wanna explain why I said what I said earlier. So there's this really interesting irony that the Israeli press is so much more trustworthy than the American press, because the Israeli press doesn't serve Israel, it serves different factions within Israel and trying to get at the truth. Some of them, obviously they look at it from a framing of an Israeli point of view, as almost the press of every country does to some degree, right? But there's a variety of opinions and no one is suppressed for being an anti-Semite, right? Because they're all Jewish, right? So here in America, when I see a story about Israel being surprised at the Venezuelan invasion, I think it's probably the exact opposite. It's probably an American media operation that got it from a source, and and they know that source is likely lying, but they print it anyway. And that source is lying to get you to believe the opposite of what's true. They wanted it, they encouraged it, etc. But when I see it in the Jerusalem Post and I see it in the Israeli press, I go, oh wait, that's interesting. So here, let me give you a quote from it. They said in this story, it appears that Israel was surprised by America's intervention in Venezuela and that this action scrambled Israeli calculations about what might be possible in Islamic Republic of Iran. Okay, so that's super interesting. So it sounds like they really didn't expect that he would do this. And to be fair to the Israelis for being caught off guard a little bit there, it really is crazy. He really shouldn't have done it, right? So it's nuts to go in and just attack a country that didn't attack you, no claim of self-defense really, and kidnap their leader. That's nuts, right? So it appears the Israelis wanted it, but it wasn't a top priority for them. And we were telling you that Venezuela was a confluence of events. Probably oil was the most important. Even that's complicated because it involves the refineries on the Gulf Coast want it more than the oil companies do. There's defense contractors, etc. And we did the story yesterday of the speculators on Wall Street making a lot of money from it, and they usually drive policy. And Israel was part of that mix, we told you. And if you made me guess what percentage, I might have guessed 25, 35%, something along those lines. Now I'd lower it. I think that it's, yeah, they definitely wanted it, but it wasn't a high priority for them. Like Iran is such a higher priority.
Of course it is,
right?
Yes.
So, but now that it's happened, they're like, oh, that's beautiful. Okay, let's do regime change from a distance. Like getting on the ground was a mess in Iraq. And we'd love to make the Americans do it again, but they seem a little reluctant. So can we do this regime change, by just bombing or protests or whatever or capture? Yeah, and now, Anna, I think to answer your question, I think that's fool's gold. Terrible idea, terrible. So first of all, what did we even accomplish in Venezuela? I don't want to get into the whole Venezuela thing other than just to say, we do not control the country. We have nothing on the ground. All they have to do is say no, then we would be left with no choice but to put boots on the ground, right? To do a second military attack and have someone on the ground directing the Venezuelan government, right? So they think it's already over and we own Venezuela. That's absurd. That we just got started, nothing is close to over. If you think you could do that in Iran, that's even harder for reasons we'll get into in a sec. So I just think, Anna, that this is going to, because Trump thinks he nailed it. He thinks he nailed Iran, he thinks he nailed Venezuela. He doesn't understand anything about ramifications of his actions, consequences, etc. So now I feel like he's gonna go on a literal warpath where he thinks, oh, who cares? Yeah, let's knock over Cuba and Colombia and Iran. Iran's gonna be a piece of cake, okay?
Yeah.
So it's gonna make it easier to reel him into that much more disastrous war.
And look, to be fair to Trump, if you consider this being fair, and I do, Trump isn't alone in being terrible in terms of what he expects to happen or what he predicts to happen in all these various regime change wars or invasions that he's been mulling over the last few weeks. The thing that kind of makes Trump stand apart from others like the neocons of the Bush administration is that he is far more impulsive and easier to manipulate based on his ego. And so considering the fact that he is now surrounded by individuals who are telling him that what he did in Venezuela is a big win, that is going to motivate him to do more of it, especially as if you look at the polling, and Harry Enton reported this today, his support, especially among the Republican voters, has increased following the ouster of Nicolas Maduro. But Cenk is right. The Venezuelan regime that was led by Maduro remains. His vice president was sworn in. And while she initially had some defiant statements and demanded the release of Maduro, she later released some conciliatory statements and says that she is willing to work with the United States to prevent war. And there is some suspicion that she might have struck some sort of deal with the Trump administration behind Maduro's back. And so if that is the case, if that regime remains, but that regime is far more compliant with the United States, in a way, the Trump administration is kind of right because they are able to control that regime far more than they were able to do so under Maduro.
So yesterday we talked about how there's a 10% chance that we have a secret deal with Rodriguez and the CIA worked it out and she's gonna be a puppet for us. And then that won't necessitate a second strike or boots on the ground. And then they'll think it was a spectacular success. Why do I have it at only 10%? Because, okay, so let's say that the vice president is in on it. Is the defense minister gonna go along? Maybe, but now you've changed the odds. Is the interior minister gonna go along? But now you've changed the odds. Are all of the generals gonna go along, or are some of them going to be loyal to Maduro, or think, screw Maduro, screw Rodriguez, I'll just take the power. There's nobody in charge, right?
Yep.
And then Maduro, this is to me is critical. We'll see if it winds up becoming relevant. Maduro had militia groups supporting him on the streets. So they ride around in motorcycles, etc. And so if we go on the ground, those guys are gonna be the insurgency and they're gonna pick us apart. But if we don't go on the ground in this initial stage, it could be that the militias combine with the military, etc., and cause some sort of issue. So my point is just getting one person on our side, the VP, even if it's true, doesn't solve everything, right? The fact that at some point, somebody in Venezuela is gonna realize, you know what? The Americans aren't here. Like, yeah, they could do a bombing. Yeah, I'm a little worried about my life if that happens, but I'll be super prepared. And this country's for the taking. There's no one on the ground here, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of possibilities that could play out. Usually attempts at overthrowing a leader or engaging in regime change doesn't go as planned. So we'll see how this plays out. It's really difficult to predict. So we're gonna wait and see how this plays out. And more importantly, we'll see whether or not Trump is serious about going after Iran. But lately he's been hyper-focused on Greenland. And I don't think he's lying about that. He really does want to take Greenland over because of the natural resources there. Now I want to reset and talk a little bit about the influences around Donald Trump because those influences are notably different from what we saw in his first term. So Unfortunately, we have all sorts of scumbag war hawks and neocons surrounding Donald Trump and egging him on for more war. And that includes Senator Lindsey Graham, who was pictured at a Make America Great Again hat signing. Cool. He writes,
Iran great again.
It says make Iran great?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I totally misread that. So basically egging Trump on to invade Iran. Now he writes in this post, another great day with the president who has brought America back stronger than ever. I would love him to elaborate on that. At home and abroad, God bless our commander in chief and all of the brave men and women who serve under him. I'm proud to be an American. God bless and protect the brave people of Iran who are standing up to tyranny. Now, according to AIPAC Tracker, I should note that Graham has taken in over $1 million in campaign donations from AIPAC. So I wonder what's motivating him. Now, he also went on Fox News to promote war with Iran. Let's take a quick look at that.
How do you see the protests that are unfolding in Iran? And is this an opportunity to rid the world of the single biggest sponsor of terrorism?
Well, all the people who are protesting for the Palestinians, where are you today standing behind the people of Iran or trying to throw over the Ayatollah, who's a religious Nazi, who killed a 16-year-old girl for not wearing a head cover on a bus, who's tortured, raped, and maimed the population, who is the largest state sponsor of terrorism on the planet. The people are in open revolt. They've chosen not to live this way anymore. And unlike Obama, President Trump has not turned his back on the people of Iran. So I pray and hope that 2026 will be the year that we make Iran great again.
So just like Bill Maher, just like all of the individuals who support Israel and want to carry out various US military operations in the Middle East on behalf of Israel, Lindsey Graham is so concerned about the women in Iran that he would like to effectively bomb the crap out of that country and potentially slaughter them, much like has happened in Gaza and the West Bank and Lebanon and Syria and Libya. He cares about the women so much. But anyway, I just want to remind you all of Lindsey Graham's actual feelings toward Donald Trump, because I remember when Donald Trump first announced that he was running in 2015, Lindsey Graham called him a racist and a bigot, doesn't represent the values of the Republican Party. After Trump's supporters stormed the Capitol on January 6th, Lindsey Graham, real war hawk, a strong man, if you will, was terrified. And here's what he had to say about Trump.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I accept the Pennsylvania Second Circuit that Trump's lawsuit wasn't right. Georgia, they said the Secretary of State took the law in his own hands. He changed the election laws unlawfully. A federal judge said no. I accept the federal judge, even though I don't agree with it. Fraud. They say there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10. I hadn't had one. They said 8,000 felons in prison in Arizona voted. Give me 10. I hadn't gotten one. Does that say there's problems in every election? I don't buy this. Enough's enough. We got to end it.
Enough's enough, we gotta end it. Unless second-term Trump is willing to carry out the best interests of Israel and my donors and defense contractors too. Don't forget the defense contractors. So Rand Paul pushed back on Lindsey Graham. I'll give you his statement in just a minute. Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so first, what you see on AIPAC Tracker is actually a small amount of the money that they actually take from the Israeli lobby. As we saw in some of the emails that DropSite News uncovered, people like Larry Ellison give $5 million to Super PAC of Marco Rubio, and that doesn't go into AIPAC Tracker because you don't know where it's coming from. And so it's actually, as large as those numbers seem, they're the tip of the iceberg for how much legalized bribes the Israelis are giving to all of our politicians. And Lindsey Graham, of course, is one of the biggest neocon, Israel first people in American history. And if you're on the same side as Lindsey Graham, you're on the wrong side. period. I've never seen him be on the right side, and a lot of right wingers would agree with me. And so now he says he's fighting for the Iranian woman. Yeah, to Anna's point, yeah, he said he was fighting for the women of Iraq too, and then we killed a couple 100,000 of them.
Oops.
Yeah, it didn't seem like we were fighting for him when we dropped bombs on him. So it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with regime change, deposing Saddam Hussein, oil defense contractors, and yes, Israel wanted him gone. And so if Israel wants it, we apparently don't have a choice because they own our politicians, and they do. I just want to ask the right wing one more question before we go back to Rand Paul. He says it's time to make Iran great again. Is that a legitimate goal for the right wing? Did you guys vote in 2024 because you're like, God, I really care about the well-being of Iran, and I hope the next president is obsessed with making Iran great again? Or did you want him to concentrate on America first? Because it seems like he hasn't gotten to America, but there's tons of Iran, Venezuela, Somalia, Yemen, Nigeria, tons of countries he cares about. We haven't gotten to America.
That's right. Now, if you're wondering how much influence Lindsey Graham has over Trump, well, the senator's colleague, Rand Paul, claims a lot. Here's what he said recently. Whenever I had misgivings about something else Trump did, I'd always come back and say, well, he's the best we've ever had, much better than the Bushes, who were war mad and wanted to be involved in all these crazy wars overseas, or make the world safe for democracy. I never liked any of it, and I thought Trump was different. And so it disappoints me, but he's under the thrall of Lindsey Graham. And I don't think Lindsey Graham is the only one influencing Trump. I think that there are all sorts of war hawks and neocons who have Trump's ear, unfortunately. And some of the individuals who had more sway over Trump previously, I think people like Tucker Carlson don't have as much influence because Trump isn't watching online media. He's a dinosaur and he still watches Fox News, which of course cheered on endless wars all the way back in 2003 in the lead up to the war in Iraq, and are still cheering on wars today. And who pays for that? Us, the US taxpayers. I mean, technically, because we don't really have the money to pay for it, so we're just increasing our national debt. We're up to $40 trillion, by the way.
I think they're trying to make war seem easy and costless so that we'll have more of it. Oh, look, we bombed Iran, no cost at all. First of all, there was actually tremendous cost of the ships, the bombs, et cetera, that we use, but of course, gratis for our beloved Israel. Then Venezuela, oh, we go in, we go come out, we don't lose anyone. This is easy, costless. No, the very next one we're gonna do is gonna be an epic disaster because it's just a matter of percentages, it's just a matter of odds. Maybe they do a third one that's immaculate tactically. Because tactics are important, right, when you're actually going to do an operation. But it's not anywhere near as important as strategy. What is our strategy? And if our strategy is to somehow do regime change and war without any cost to us and have it be easy, that's not a thing. It's just not, and it never will be. And we're gonna find out the hard way, I absolutely guarantee it. And I wish it wasn't the case. And by the way, Anna, Tucker has less influence nowadays too, and people like him, not just because they're online, but because they're no longer representing a giant donor class. As you're gonna see later in the show, Megyn Kelly says basically when they were on Fox News, they were kind of told what to say, right? And Fox News represents almost all of the donor class.
Absolutely.
So it's not just Israel, the oil companies, defense contractors, Murdoch, Hannity, all those guys, they serve the establishment. So now Trump's like, okay, yeah, Tucker's got an interesting opinion, and I care a little bit about what MAGA thinks. On the other hand, you guys aren't coming with any money at all.
Yep.
Right, and the other guys are offering me tons of cash, political money.
And Trump's a hoe. Like, let's keep it real. Trump is a hoe. Like, he is transactional. He wants the money. He will hoe himself out for the money. Plain and simple.
Yeah, and in Trump's case, it's not just campaign contributions like it is for most of these folks, but you can put money into his meme coin, into his entertainment company that's also crypto somehow, right? And you can give them towers, jets, planes, etc. So yeah, and that's why you're seeing now Lindsey Graham bear hugging him as we showed you in that picture. Mark Levin the other day hugging him and going, he's the first Jewish president. We love him. He does everything we want. And then Miriam Adelson comes on and she's the main briber, and she goes, hey boy, I'll give you $250 million. This is on camera, man.
Dance for me.
Yeah, I'll give you $250 million more if you dance for me like a bitch and run for a third term, which is obviously unconstitutional. But remember, we're Israel first. We don't care about your laws or your constitution at all. All we want you to do is serve us. So for now, Trump is getting some effects from this, from MAGA. As we've been covering, MAGA is having a civil war. But because those two military operations went relatively well in people's minds, it is true that a lot of the MAGA voters are now going, wait, maybe this is going to be easy. Maybe Trump is right. Maybe war does mean peace. And they're about to find out, in my opinion, that it doesn't. It just means endless war. And then they're gonna be pissed. And I wish it didn't happen because it's gonna hurt the country.
I agree.
But it looks like it's nearly inevitable.
When we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about Ann Coulter's claims that this is really about drug trafficking. I had a little bit of a tiff with her on that issue. So we've got that and more coming up. We'll be right back.
All right, guys, let's go to our members at TYT.com. Mark Card Shark says, independent media is largely failing on Venezuela attack by bringing in biased insiders and letting them tell their stories unchecked. TYT is maintaining their integrity by qualifying their reporting and interjecting their usual quality takes on this matter. Thanks, TYT. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate that. We try hard, and you see us, as I did today, adjusting to new facts. And so if we see new facts, we share them with you and we adjust our analysis, because it isn't about ideology or trying to prove us right, and it's not about ego, it's about getting it right. 36 Chambers Dragon says, hello TYT fam. All the love from the mountains. I'm trying my hardest to pay attention to the news again. I kind of figure if the world we used to know is over and sold off to the highest bidder, I might as well grab a beer and some popcorn and watch it on the best actual news in the world. TYT forever, love you all. Right back at you, brother. I appreciate you, and don't worry. Look, when I get pessimistic, I will let you know as to like a situation we cannot get out of. Right now, we're not there. I think that it's going to get worse, and then there will be a huge negative reaction from the American public, and then it'll get better. So, stay in the fight, and you don't have to be in the fight. You can just watch, right? But don't lose hope. I don't think we're anywhere near that. Mr. In Between says Maduro's inner circle absolutely gave him up. There's no way his abduction wasn't an inside job. So that's a great point. There's no question that we have some people on the inside. The question is how many in the important, powerful positions that could take and power and lead Venezuela. Kelly K says, I can tell you as a Canadian, we are deeply concerned about the Mad King realizing he has no guardrails. Well, the world should be concerned about that because Trump now thinks for sure he has no guardrails. And a lot of the MAGA influencers are encouraging him and say, as we'll show you later in the show, there's no such thing as international law. Don't worry about it. Might makes right. Just break any law you want and just go to any war, kill anyone, kidnap anyone. And will he take that and run with it? Absolutely, not even close. He can't wait. Art Guy wrote in, this morning I realized this is my 10-year anniversary as an avid watcher of TYT. It was in early 2016 when I started watching video clips of Cenk and thought he was offering the best commentary on that crazy year. Well, thank you, brother. It wasn't long before I was watching the whole show, and well, here we are. Much love to all TYT staff and members at TYT. You guys are the best. Thank you. Thank you for being with us all this time and getting something out of our commentary. Appreciate it. Jack Callahan wrote in, it's hard to believe, but today's the 5th anniversary of January 6th.
Yep.
It is indeed. D. Haverty says, Cenk/Anna gets Tad Stormer, Resistance History on TYT, professor and author who cuts through the BS difference between performative protest and real resistance, the kind that forces change and makes fascism costly. Way too much marching, not enough leverage. This is the convo Dem leadership is terrified of. Well, look, I'll definitely look into him for the revolution, and that seems like a very good guess for that, and on how to pull off a rebellion right. And in our case, of course, a political one, a non-violent, peaceful one, but one we desperately need. Green New Dealer Dragon says Maduro pled not guilty to having bad dance moves. Apparently, we were actually upset that he was dancing in some videos, and that apparently enraged the Trump insiders.
Absolutely,
and Trump.
Of course it did.
Unreal. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
Let's get right to our next story.
They're the ones who ship the cocaine from Colombia to Mexico. Mexico trucks it in here. Yes, they are a crucial part of this. There's been indictment after indictment. This has to do with our country. The cocaine and meth and fentanyl, they're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. This is our hemisphere, and we should be installing puppet governments throughout the region.
I'm not going to peddle the bull theories about how Venezuela is at the heart of our drug problems. Fentanyl comes, the material is coming from China. It's trafficked to the United States
China. It's all from
Mexico. No, it's literally
not from China.
From the ingredients for the drug
not anymore.
Come from
Not
China.
anymore.
Well, on this week's episode of Her Take, Ann Coulter peddled the exact same Trump administration lies that the motivating factor in taking out Nicolas Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, was due to the fact that he was a part of a major drug trafficking operation, sending drugs to the United States, and she even tried to make us believe that Venezuela is behind the fentanyl epidemic, which literally no one is saying, including the Trump administration. Like, unhinged. But Cenk, before I further debunk this big lie from not just Ann Coulter, but others who are defending what the Trump administration just did, what are your 2 cents?
Yeah, so look, if you don't know that this has nothing to do with drugs, you're a bit of a sucker. Sorry, but it's just true. And even people in the right-wing movement are at least being honest about it, like including Megyn Kelly saying, yeah, we're just taking their oil, and that's just us exerting our power. And half of them are saying good, or more than half are saying good, right? But it's interesting that Ann Coulter, who usually doesn't mind saying evil things, is still pretending it's about drugs. I'm kind of surprised by that.
Well, she also says good that we're taking their oil. We should, and use the ridiculous excuse that this is part of the Monroe Doctrine. I can't, I really can't. Please don't insult our intelligence, please, I'm begging you. Please don't insult our intelligence, especially when, as these lies are being told, Trump is simultaneously bragging about how we're taking their oil, we're taking their oil. This is all about the oil. What do I need from Rodriguez, Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the effective leader of Venezuela after the ouster of Nicolas Maduro? She needs to give me access to the oil and other things. That was a direct quote. Okay, please don't insult our intelligence. But anyway, as we told you weeks ago, the Cartel de los Soles, which Maduro was allegedly the head of, right? Doesn't exist, and it appears that the DOJ has conceded as much because they have dropped that charge against Nicolas Maduro in their case against him. So according to the New York Times, the Trump administration designated a Venezuelan, take a look at this headline. They designated a Venezuelan slang term for drug corruption in the military as a terrorist organization, and said that Maduro led it. Now, Trump used that dubious claim to oust Maduro from power. The claim does trace back to 2020, a 2020 grand jury indictment specifically of Maduro that was drafted by Trump's Justice Department. The Treasury Department designated Cartel de los Soles as a terrorist organization after that. This was in July of last year, 2025, effectively copying language from the earlier indictment. And then in November, Secretary of State Marco Rubio ordered the State Department to do the same. But Cartel de los Soles, again, as the New York Times reported, is actually a slang term invented by the Venezuelan media dating back to the 1990s for officials who were corrupted by drug money. Right now, prosecutors still accuse Maduro of participating in a drug trafficking conspiracy, but they abandoned the claim that Cartel de los Soles was an actual organization. Instead, the revised indictment states that it refers to a patronage system and a culture of corruption fueled by drug money. Now, the old indictment refers 32 times to Cartel de los Soles and describes Maduro as that cartel's leader. However, the new indictment mentions it only twice and says that he, like his predecessor, President Hugo Chavez, participated in, perpetuated, and protected this patronage system. Now, experts in Latin American crime and narcotics issues criticized other aspects of the indictment. So the indictment still has all sorts of problems. It's riddled with issues. For instance, they added the head of a Venezuelan prison gang called Tren de Aragua as a supposed co-conspirator of Maduro's. The connection described in the indictment is thin. It says only that the gang leader, in phone calls in 2019 with someone he thought was a Venezuelan official, offered escort services to protect drug shipments passing through Venezuela. Okay.
That's nothing.
Now, The Dissident, which is a fantastic content creator on Substack, for lack of a better word. They don't have bylines, so I don't know their names, but they do incredible reporting. They have a theory that the reason why the DOJ did this, partly the reason why they did this, is because the CIA was involved in trafficking drugs to Venezuela and they don't want that to come out. I'll give you the details of that in just a second. But first, Cenk.
Yeah, so if it was about drugs, then why did we let Juan Orlando Hernandez go? He's former president of Honduras, one of the biggest drug traffickers in human history, convicted in US courts. There's absolutely no question he did it. And Trump gave him a pardon. So if you were concerned about drugs, there is 0% chance you would let Hernandez go. So he's not concerned about drugs at all, not 1%. You're a total, utter sucker if you believe that line. And you'll believe anything. He could say, I did it for the rabbits. And you'd be like, of course, the Easter Bunny, that's why we had to do it, right? So now on a lighter note, YTP Renewed wrote in a super chat on YouTube saying, if their quarrel were with cocaine, they'd go after Wall Street stockbrokers for driving demand for it in the first place, not whomever supplies it. Guys, if you cared about drugs, there's a million ways to tackle the drug epidemic, including by going after drug companies here in America that started the fentanyl problem in the first place.
Cocaine is not a problem. I mean, look, I'm sure there are people, likely people who are very affluent because cocaine is supposedly expensive, who have an addiction to cocaine. But in terms of the vast majority of overdose deaths in this country, it's overwhelmingly caused by fentanyl, overwhelmingly.
Yeah, and Venezuela has nothing to do with fentanyl. Okay, you got that now. Look, last two things from what Anna just said that are so hilarious. So in 2019, 6 years ago, one guy from Tren de Aragua called someone he thought was a Venezuelan official but was not. And that is why Maduro is working with Tren de Aragua. If I was on the jury and I heard that, I'd say, no, that proves he is not working with Tren de Aragua, because you literally have zero connections between that gang and the Venezuelan government, let alone Maduro at the top of that government.
Yep.
So this is a joke in every way imaginable. And Anna's right. Once you say, okay, well, Cartel de las Solas, most important thing in the world, and that's the Venezuelan cartel. And then you go, never mind, it's not a real cartel, it doesn't exist. Okay, you just told us the whole thing's a lie.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the CIA's involvement in trafficking drugs to Venezuela, by the way. So as the Dissident reports, the Justice Department's decision to drop the Cartel de los Soles charge against Nicolas Maduro likely has to do with the fact that further investigation into the term Cartel de los Soles would expose the CIA's own involvement in drug trafficking. Now, the phrase Cartel of the Suns reportedly emerged in 1993 when two Venezuela National Guard generals, anti-narcotics unit chief Ramon Davila and his successor Orlando Hernandez Villegas were investigated for drug trafficking and related crimes. So as brigade commanders, each one of them actually wore like a sun insignia, which gave rise to this phrase, Cartel of the Sun. And then when division commanders who wore double suns were later accused of drug trafficking, the name evolved to Cartel de los Soles. However, further investigation into this case shows that Ramon Davila and Orlando Hernandez Villegas were being supported by the CIA when they were smuggling cocaine into the United States. So I apologize, they were actually smuggling drugs into the US, not to Venezuela, so that was my mistake. But 60 Minutes, I didn't know this, but 60 Minutes actually did an investigative report into this at the time. This is back in 1993. So in the piece, which we can't play for copyright reasons, but I'll describe it in the next excerpts from the Dissident piece, referring to the drug smuggling done by Ramon Davila, former DEA head Robert Bonner told Mike Wallace, quote, "There was some knowledge on the part of CIA, at least some participation in approving or condoning this to be done." Robert Bonner noted, "If this has not been approved by DEA or an appropriate law enforcement authority in the United States, then it's illegal. It's called drug trafficking. It's called drug smuggling." So why would the CIA do this? Like, what was the grand mission here? What was the plan? What was the objective? Well, Annabelle Grimm, who's the former lead DEA agent in Venezuela, explained, saying that the CIA and the National Guard in Venezuela wanted to let cocaine go into the traffic without doing anything. They wanted to let it come up to the United States, no surveillance. This would enable them to gain the traffickers' confidence, keep their information cool, and it would lead to larger seizures of drugs.
No, it wouldn't.
I mean, obviously, these types of schemes have never worked. She follows that up with, I guess they thought they were going to get Pablo Escobar at the scene of the crime or something, which I found personally ludicrous.
Because, sorry, Annabelle, but you have no idea what's going on. They weren't trying to get the drug traffickers, they were working with the drug traffickers. We know the history of it now. So why did they do it, for example, in places like Colombia? Because they wanted to be able to get money from the drugs and then use that money to fund people like the Contras in Nicaragua. And also right-wing militias all over Latin America and South America. Why? Because, and this is really damning of the right wing in general, not in America, but overall. Because the right wing, if they get into power, will work with us to rip off their own people. They have no morality, so they think, okay, you wanna give me the power in this country? I'll murder anyone you like, CIA. I'll sell you any drugs you like. You put me in charge and then I'll let you rip off Nicaragua, Colombia, Costa Rica. It doesn't matter, just rob us blind. If a left winger gets into office, they hate it, the CIA does, because the left winger then goes, wait, no, this is our natural resources. Why shouldn't we get some of the profits from the oil companies, the banana companies, etc.? And they're like, that's it, murder him, work with the drug traffickers, destroy everything that might help the people of Venezuela, Colombia, etc. So the CIA is a deeply nefarious force. I mean, you want to talk about a deep state, the CIA is a deep state. And the CIA has never done anything to help America as far as I have ever seen. All they've done is great evil, and they do it at the expense of the American people. They're like, oh, we're gonna get American people addicted to drugs? Who cares? That way we could rob the Latin American countries better. Well, okay, then you're disgusting and you're anti-American. And so why, like the CIA should be disbanded immediately. They've never done anything good for America. So, and why is Juan Orlando Hernandez being let go? Because he was a right winger who was working with the CIA, obviously, right?
To traffic drugs to the United States.
To traffic drugs to America. And the CIA is like, oh, you're gonna hurt Americans for the interest of oil companies and other corporations we secretly work for? Yes, that's a Trump. Get him out of jail. Let's put him back in charge. Now there's a left-winger in charge of Honduras, and he's trying to help the citizens of Honduras, and we can't stand it.
I think the biggest misconception about neoliberalism is that neoliberals want small government. That's actually not true. They love big government, but they love big government that works for them. And this is exactly what's playing out with the CIA and essentially these agents doing the bidding of big business and corporations as opposed to doing what's necessary to keep our country safe. That was the whole purpose of the CIA. All right, we got to
Can I just say really quick last thing? If you really cared about the war on drugs and that's why you think it makes sense to invade Venezuela, then you should get rid of the CIA. No one's brought more drugs into this country than the CIA. So are we gonna do a war to depose the head of the CIA?
I wish we would.
Right? No, we're not gonna do that. So anybody telling you that it's the drugs, just know they're a giant liar or a total moron who has no idea about anything that's actually happening in the news and in the real world.
When we come back from the break, I'll tell you what this is all really about and how difficult it is to extract oil from Venezuela, how expensive it is, and how Trump has told the oil companies that we, the American people, will pay for it. We'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to YouTube members. Kelly K writes, and Stephen Miller said on live TV today regarding Greenland, Cuba, and Colombia, quote, who's going to fight against us? No one. That is terrifying, Kelly says. Yeah, he's gonna find out one day, and I wish he wouldn't because I wish he wouldn't start these wars, but that yes, there are people in Venezuela, like my favorite thing from yesterday was the right wingers going, no, good Catholics are not going to resist us. That was just the dirty Muslims who are terrorists. But the Catholics will know that they are conquered and will bow their heads to us. That's not the Catholics I know, nor is it any human being I know. But tell the IRA about how good Catholics bow their heads. Tell all the Latin American countries because they never fought us. They fought us tooth and nail for decade after decade. Anyways, yeah, so Stephen Miller is, anyway, comic book villain, and he's going to get everybody in a lot of trouble here in America. He's gonna get a lot of people killed in the armed forces, gonna cost us trillions of dollars. And then look, all these guys, one day they're gonna feel my guess, they're gonna feel the wrath of their own voters, okay? And that's a wrath they do not wanna deal with. So that's not left wing. Left wing's not, anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, Twitch says, Front Row 84 says, I was growing up in the 90s and not really paying attention, but I feel like Fox News was warmongering all the way back then.
Oh yeah, for sure, from the beginning, okay? Yeah. But from my memory, because that was when I was politicized and everything, the lead up to Iraq is when I personally noticed just how much they love to beat the war drums.
My dad called me in the 1990s when we were both Republicans, and he's like, Cenk, I'm watching Bill O'Reilly, and I think he is full of crap.
He was right.
And I'm like, all right. I'm like, really? And then I found out, boy, was he right, right? So they've been full of crap from day one. Dev0094 says, Iran is the last pillar that remains in the way of subjugating the Middle East, but Iran is a mountainous fortress with an intelligent, resilient population. Trump nor Israel don't know what's waiting for them.
I mean, I hope you're right. And I mean that, I don't care, I hope you're right. But my real question is, did Iran show a considerable amount of restraint following the bombing of their nuclear sites, or it's not restraint, they just don't have the military capability that we all assume they did? I have no idea.
Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I can't tell if they're weak or restrained, right? And so, but it doesn't matter, guys, because there isn't any insurgency we can beat. We couldn't beat Afghanistan, and they have like 3 rocks between them.
What about the Houthis?
Right, I mean, we can't beat the Houthis. Yeah, come on. We can't beat there. You can't beat an insurgency. So that's why Israel makes us fight their wars for them, because they know, what did they get? Was Israel going to get in and beat the insurgency in Iraq?
It's just Americans that'll be slaughtered, right?
Yeah,
Who cares about
sending the
that?
Americans to die. Scuffed Meta says Trump admitted to consulting the oil companies before and after the kidnapping of Maduro. Yeah, he's absolutely brazen about it. Wang Jun says on TYT.com, they claim to have arrested the head of Antifa, designated Cartel de los Soles as an actual cartel, dismantled Hydra, bombed Wakanda, and colonized Krypton. And Benny Johnson will say, of course, Krypton was in on the 2020 election theft. And God knows what they'll say about Wakanda. I don't even want to know. Okay, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Jen Canana with you guys. Quick note about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. They're gonna save you a lot of money. It's Andrew Yang giving away money as usual. So if you're paying over 50 bucks for your cell phone bill, that's nuts. Nothing changes about your phone. It takes about 7 minutes. TYT.com/switch. I have perfect service. Phone number's the same, the phone's the same, etc. Right now they're giving away an extra $50. I think they're gonna change it, so it's a good time to act now. Plus, they give you money if you don't use all your data, and I've gotten money every month. It's an awesome deal. You actually wind up paying somewhere in the 30s. It's unconscionable, in my opinion, not to switch. TYT.com/switch. I love the sponsor because it really, really, really helps you. All right, Casper.
Also, I just want to quickly promote something that I'll be doing on Saturday. I will be debating someone who goes by Just Pearly Things on YouTube and other social media platforms on whether or not modern feminism has been positive for society. So if you are interested in attending, it'll take place on January 10th. That's this Saturday, and you can get your tickets at worldwardebate.com. It'll be taking place in Atlantic City.
Interesting. I was on the I've Had It podcast today, which is awesome. And so we'll put that up on tyt.com/press when it comes up. But you could also check out their site because they'll have it up probably later today.
All right, well, let's get right to our next story. It has become abundantly clear that the ouster of Nicolas Maduro and the military strikes against Venezuela had nothing to do with fighting drug trafficking and a lot to do with seizing Venezuela's oil. In fact, Trump is openly bragging about it. In fact, Joe Scarborough apparently had a lengthy phone call with President Trump and described what they discussed during that phone call. Let me read you the details. The president's response, Joe, the difference between Iraq and this, meaning what's happening with Venezuela, is that Bush didn't keep the oil. We're going to keep the oil. And to underline his point, Trump said his comments were no longer on background and said, in 2016, I said, we should have kept the oil. It caused a lot of controversy. Well, we should have kept the oil, the president said, and we're going to rebuild their broken down oil facilities. And this time we're going to keep the oil. We don't have enough time to get into it, but maybe look into whether we actually invaded Iraq for oil for us, or maybe we invaded Iraq for oil and for the best interests of another country. But anyway, let me move on. In fact, US Energy Secretary Chris Wright reportedly plans to meet with representatives of Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and ExxonMobil at the Goldman Sachs Energy, Clean Tech, and Utilities Conference in Miami later this week to talk about their involvement in extracting the oil from Venezuela. But it looks like that's gonna take a lot of persuading, if you can believe it. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so we'd like to remind you guys that we don't get any of the oil. They give it to ExxonMobil, Chevron, etc. They charge us the same price. They keep extra profits. So this coup brought to you by ExxonMobil and corporate America just happens to be funded by us, as always. It's extra subsidies for them. The only difference between Trump and Bush is Trump is more dishonest and more honest at the same time. He'll just tell you, yeah, we're stealing their oil. We're just stealing it. And yeah, it's not for you. I'm doing a deal with ExxonMobil and those guys. And he's more dishonest in saying, pretending he was anti-war and not a neocon.
That's exactly right. Now, I want to be clear in stating that oil will not be flooding the markets anytime soon because extracting oil from Venezuela will be extremely costly. Some analysts claim as much as $60 billion. And it would take many years to build up the infrastructure necessary to extract said oil. In fact, why don't we go to this Wall Street Journal report, which I think did a pretty good job in quickly summarizing all the various obstacles in the way of extracting this oil. Take a look.
Within investing for the energy industry, you have geologic factors, you have infrastructural factors, and you also have political factors. Now, Venezuela boasts pretty incredible geology with its oil reserves, but its infrastructure, the actual metal in the ground that you need to mine oil, has deteriorated over the course of time. Meanwhile, its political institutions have also withered. And those last two buckets of factors are really what investors are keying in on as they're evaluating Venezuela going forward. Oil prices have languished over the last couple of years, and recently they've been trading south of $60 a barrel. Now, while oil companies are able to make a profit at that price, it doesn't really incentivize the type of massive investments that President Trump is talking about here. And until there is a run-up in prices or some other incentive from the US government, it will be a hard sell to get companies to pull the trigger in massive, potentially billion-dollar investments.
Now, we here at TYT, most of us at least, live here in California. So unfortunately, we are not seeing the benefits of lower oil prices at the pump because our state has tacked on all sorts of taxes that are supposed to help fund improvements to our infrastructure. And if you've been in California, our infrastructure is total garbage. But elsewhere in the country, gas prices have gone down considerably because oil prices have gone down. Adding more supply is not really something oil companies are all that interested in right now because that would lower prices further, which makes it difficult for them to turn a profit. And in fact, I want to go to this next video, which features an oil analyst with ex-analysts. His name is Makish Sadev. And he basically told Bloomberg that Venezuelan oil is actually not really desired by US oil companies. Take a look at that.
This oil is so heavy to produce, and the number of refineries in the US and elsewhere is declining who wants this kind of an oil. We already know Saudi Arabia in the recent times canceled a 1 million barrels per day heavy crude oil project, Safania. So this is not the oil what the world needs in future as we go where we need less gasoline, less diesel. So I guess a lot of hot talk, a lot of, I guess, wrong analysis happening, and that's I wanted to just call out.
And look, it would take a lot of money, as much as $60 billion, maybe more. I mean, these are estimates to build up the infrastructure necessary to extract the oil, the crude oil from Venezuela, right? And the oil companies are kind of unwilling to make such massive investments into the Venezuelan infrastructure. However, Trump has offered them a solution if they're worried about the risk, okay? This is what he said, and I want Trump supporters in particular to listen carefully to this because this is what we mean when we say that neoliberal policy expects us, the American taxpayers, to basically take on the costs that private industry should be taking on so they make a profit. So it's, again, privatizing gains, socializing losses. This is what Trump said, quote, "A tremendous amount of money will have to be spent and the oil companies will spend it and then they'll be reimbursed by us or through revenue," meaning US taxpayers.
Yep.
But are we gonna profit from that oil, meaning us, the American taxpayers? Of course not, the private companies will.
Yeah, so we already subsidize oil companies 35 billion a year. It's outrageous. It's like 10 times what we give Israel. Why? They're the most profitable companies in the world. So now on top of that, we're gonna do a war and pay for a war in Venezuela. And even the tiny amount that we've done so far, everything costs money. Bring our aircraft carriers and all of our, half of our fleet there costs a ton of money. The attack we did cost money, let alone the mountain of money that it's gonna cost to actually control Venezuela, right? Now they're saying, now on top of all that money, you got the subsidies, you got the war, we're gonna layer on American taxpayers rebuild the infrastructure in Venezuela for oil. And remember, Venezuela before nationalized their oil industry. So we could rebuild the whole thing, and 10 years from now, they go, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Now you got to get out of the country again. And then we got stuck paying the bill. So why are we rebuilding other countries when we should be rebuilding America?
And remember, one of the first vetoes that Trump has done in his second term was vetoing a unanimously passed water project bill that would benefit the residents of rural Colorado. And the reason why he vetoed it is because he was salty over the fact that Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, a Republican Trump supporter, had the audacity to vote in favor of releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files.
And when you say, wait, why are we rebuilding Venezuela? He says, well, for the benefit of the oil companies. But the oil companies aren't my uncle. Like, so what? I don't care if ExxonMobil's richer.
Can you imagine?
We don't get the oil, guys. We don't get it, and we don't get it any cheaper either. They sell it on an international market. They just keep the profits. It's an absolute robbery of us. And the beneficiary is not Venezuela. The beneficiary is the oil companies. And they're multinational, guys. They're not American companies. Their executives, their shareholders, their owners are from all across the world. And they don't care about America at all. They're not patriotic. They're corporate robots.
Can you imagine if we lobbied the federal government to invade, let me just make something, invade the UK to take out the BBC because they're like a competitor of ours and we want to maximize our profits?
And then we tell people, no, it's okay. Then we'll have to rebuild the British media infrastructure so that we can profit off of it. And then the American taxpayers would say, yeah, but when do we get the money? We go, no, you don't get the money at all. It's for my benefit. And why are we doing it? Well, because I gave a politician $1 million or $10 million. It's insanity. It's insanity. Okay, last thing, guys, on this topic is, look, why did we go into Venezuela at all? First, we thought, obviously, oil's a huge factor. It's the largest oil producer, et cetera. It looked like Israel was agitating about Hezbollah and Iran. There's the speculators, there's defense contractors, et cetera, right? But now I think that since the oil companies are actually not chomping at the bit to go there, and it looks like we learned earlier today that Israel was relatively surprised by the attack. So there goes the two potential largest factors. So I think that we might have gone in for two reasons: Marco Rubio and Donald Trump. So Rubio is desperate to topple the Cuban government. And he's, for whatever reason, him and the entire Cuban American community is convinced that if you topple Venezuela and Maduro, it'll lead to toppling Cuba. And Donald Trump has always, he thinks, why didn't we take the oil in Iraq? He said that many, many times. And I think in his head, if we steal their oil, gas prices are gonna go down and he's gonna be really popular. And he's not educated enough to know that's not how it works. They sell it in the international markets. It barely moves the price at all, except for the instability that it creates, which might move the price up and not down. So he thought, I will, and they pumped him full of information. You're gonna be the head of the entire Western Hemisphere. And if you notice, last thing, when he did the press conference after the invasion, he talked about the Monroe Doctrine. And then he said, now they're calling it the Donroe Doctrine.
No, they're not.
Okay, literally no one called it that because we didn't know you were gonna invade Venezuela. Okay, so, but what that told me, Anna, is the Stephen Millers of the world are in his ear going, they're gonna call this the Donroe Doctrine. You're gonna be such a big man, Donald Trump. Big, everybody's gonna bow to you. And he's like, I like that. The Donroe Doctrine? Yeah, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna conquer the whole Western Hemisphere. And he literally said in the press conference, I'm going to be better than Monroe was. He's such a child.
He's too easy to manipulate and it's devastating. Anyway, we gotta take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about why Corina Machado was basically thrown under the bus by Donald Trump, how the neocons are responding to that, and much, much more. And you don't want to miss Megyn Kelly pushing back against the war hawks on the right.
And what she said is so important. Please don't miss it. We'll be right back. Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
We play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcasting cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, the defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma, and we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. K-Shack, thank you for joining through the join button on YouTube. And Sandine, awesome that you joined our tyt.com/join. That's terrific, we appreciate it. Guys, you know you could get annual membership, get a couple of months off too, through tyt.com/join. All right, Anna, what's next?
Well, we gotta talk about the woman who's been thrown under the bus. Let's get right to it.
Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a prize of the Venezuelan people, certainly want to give it to him and share it with him.
I remember and honestly miss the days when the right wing was against participation trophies, but unfortunately we have an embarrassing president who is obsessed with getting the Nobel Peace Prize, even though he has effectively been bombing 7 separate countries in his second term. But who you just heard from is Maria Corina Machado, who is the Venezuelan opposition leader and the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, which has completely discredited the prize in my eyes. They offered her, she's offering her award to President Donald Trump, who has now thrown her under the bus following the ouster of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, the kidnapping of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, she looks like the Joker in that clip.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna give your Peace Prize to Trump if he'll commit to a bigger war in Venezuela.
And essentially install her.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what she wants.
Yeah, this makes a mockery of any Peace Prize, and the Nobel's now an utter joke.
It was a joke when Obama got it, but yes.
Yeah, I agree. Now it's like, it's done. Nobel Peace Prize. You don't exist anymore. You're a total freaking joke. I don't know who's picking it, but obviously they wanted war in Venezuela. All right, but more importantly, why did they not choose her? That's really important, and that's what we found out now.
Now, look, there was some reporting in the Washington Post that alleged that the reason why Trump threw her under the bus was because of the fact that she didn't offer her prize to Trump. Although Machado ultimately said she was dedicating the award to Trump. Her acceptance of the prize was an ultimate sin, said one of the people. If she had turned it down and said, I can't accept it because it's Donald Trump's, she'd be the president of Venezuela today, this person said. Now, according to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, they've kind of poured cold water on that. It was actually the CIA which determined that installing Machado would create too many issues and instability because she's not popular. The opposition leader is not popular in Venezuela. There have been multiple polls showing that to be the case. The Wall Street Journal reports that the intelligence report cited Rodriguez and 2 other top Venezuelan regime figures as possible interim rulers who could keep order. And that's, of course, Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the sworn in president of Venezuela. She was the vice president when Maduro was in charge. Now, the report concluded that Edmundo Gonzalez, widely seen as the actual winner of the 2024 election against Maduro, and Machado would struggle to gain legitimacy as leaders while facing resistance from pro-regime security services, drug trafficking networks, and potential opponents. More from the New York Times on this. Even though Machado has gone out of her way to please Trump, in reality, her relationship with the White House has been fraying for months, Jerome. So senior US officials had grown frustrated with her assessments of Maduro's strength, feeling that she provided inaccurate reports that he was weak and on the verge of collapse. They also grew skeptical of her ability to seize power in Venezuela. So the Trump administration is now facing the wrath of war hawks and, to Cenk's point, neocons who want all of Maduro's government gone. There hasn't been regime change in Venezuela. That is what the neocons want, and they're demanding it. So we've got Democratic Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Yeah, you heard that right. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democrat, demanding that Machado be installed. Take a look.
It's more clear by the hour that Trump is backing Maduro's corrupt regime, swapping Maduro out and keeping his regime cronies in power. He's choking off any real prospects for democracy. I just met with Venezuelan leaders in my community, and they told me while Trump sidelines and dismisses Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez, political prisoners in Venezuela remain in jail. And the remnants of Maduro's regime have made repression even worse by ratcheting up searches of cars, property, and cell phones and arrests for anyone who promoted or expresses support for Maduro's removal. There's no plan for a transition to democracy. And this heightened persecution is what Trump would send Venezuelans with TPS in America right back into. This crucial moment cannot be missed. That much is clear. Nothing short of the future of liberty, prosperity, and freedom for Venezuela is at stake.
Now, when we talk about how the two parties are really the uniparty, meaning they agree on the big issues like foreign policy and the economy, this is what I'm talking about, because that was a Democrat you just heard from. Now let's hear from John Bolton, who served in Trump's first administration and is, of course, a right-winger. Here's what he has to say about Trump shunning Machado.
I think the administration is making a big mistake by throwing Machado under the bus as they did on Saturday and thinking that they can negotiate with Delcy Rodriguez somehow to have a stable transition. The Rodriguez and the other Maduro loyalists are not going to negotiate their own exit from power, at least not for the foreseeable future. It's the opposition in Venezuela that voted overwhelmingly against Maduro, that clearly supports Machado and Gonzalez. Those are the people who can help provide stability, not the failed Maduro regime.
So that's who the neocons want. It doesn't look like they're gonna get what they want for now, but things could change. What say you, Cenk?
Okay, so I think that both the reports, although they appear to be conflicting, are probably true. I think that Trump is a child, and so the fact that she didn't give the prize to him could that have aggrieved him? I mean, before Trump was president the first time around, I would have said, no, that's outlandish. Nobody's that childish, right? But he is, and so I know how mainstream media makes things up. They do it, it's all sleight of hand like a magician. It's all how they frame issues. They get you to look at it from a certain perspective. But rarely do they just make up quotes out of whole cloth. So that probably was very likely an actual Trump insider who told you how Trump feels about it. And you could tell in Trump's public statements, he seems outwardly bitter at her. She's not qualified, she has no respect inside of Venezuela, etc. But now I think the other side is more important and also true, which is they did a calculation inside the government, CIA, whoever it might be, right? And they thought, okay, if we try to do a regime change, well, then we're gonna trigger the military, the pro-Maduro militia, and we're gonna trigger all sorts of opposition, and it's gonna be super hard to do it because we're gonna need ground troops. Now, Trump doesn't want ground troops, MAGA doesn't want ground troops, so how's the only way we can get rid of Maduro? Oh, if we keep his infrastructure in place, so then we're not fighting them. They're still happy because they still have their jobs. In fact, they all have one job higher, right? They all move up a little bit. So that calculation is not the worst. It just, like, I don't want to invade or attack Venezuela, etc. But as a matter of strategy, if you're going in that direction, I at least understand the logic of that, right? Now, why are the neocons upset about it? Because there is some logic to keeping them in place if you're sure that they're really in our back pocket, right? Because there's always a couple of different factors. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is from Florida, so she's concerned. There's a lot of Venezuelans in Florida now, and a lot of Cubans in Florida, and they all want regime change, and they want regime change in Venezuela and in Cuba. So they're not satisfied with this. And plus, she's Israel first, and Israel always wants regime change. Why? And John Bolton is also Israel first. So the reason is, if it's the same regime but it's just a new leader, are they going to stop working with Iran and Hezbollah, or are they not? That's the only thing Israel cares about. And so if they're still working with Iran and Hezbollah, they're like, well, this didn't do the job at all.
And the current Venezuelan regime is very critical of Israel, very critical. And they don't like that. Israel doesn't like that.
So. Oh, and that's why I'm really thank you for bringing that up. Yesterday we showed you the video of the new interim president of Venezuela, and one of the people she blamed, in fact, the only person she blamed in that part of the speech for the invasion was the Zionists. So when the Debbie Wasserman Schultz and John Bolton see that, they're like, no, that's it. Regime change her, not satisfied. We want more war, right? So they're gonna push and push and push. And I don't know what's gonna happen because look, last thing on it is, so yes, it would be harder to fight the entire regime. So makes sense to not topple the whole thing, right? But how much are they gonna listen to us? I mean, are they really going to say, yeah, yes, sir, we now serve you loyally and we're your servants and dogs? Or are they gonna say, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of this, but I won't give you the whole thing, and I'll follow you on this, but I won't follow you on that? And then at what point does Trump go, that's it, we're going in anyway?
Yeah, we don't know, okay, so it's hard to predict, but I do know this. Maduro was willing to give Trump everything he wanted, and Trump decided to do what he did anyway. Right? So I think it's because of the fact that Trump failed in overthrowing Maduro in his first term. He tried multiple times and did fail. And Maduro was mocking Trump in the last few weeks, and Trump is very sensitive, and I'm sure that hurt his feelings. So if Maduro was willing to play ball with the Trump administration, there's some indication that maybe the rest of the regime would be willing to play ball in order to avoid all-out war with the United States. But again, we don't know. We just have to wait and see.
And we are in some ways at their mercy, because if they decide that they're not going to follow our orders, then we have no choice to either go, oh, well, it didn't work, we're losers, and go home, which Trump is very unlikely to do, or go on the ground and try to take them out, in which case we're in a quagmire and an occupation and an epic disaster.
And in recent weeks, Trump has downplayed the severity of having boots on the ground. He's like, it's not a big deal if you have boots on the ground. Whereas previously, he had a very different take on that. So again, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I don't wanna make strong predictions and have egg on my face, because really, we don't have any evidence that things are gonna go one way or the other yet. We have to wait. For now, let's take a break. When we come back, Megyn Kelly turns on Fox News and their way of covering US interventions. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to YouTube members. My Love Nebraska says, anyone who's willing to give away her Peace Prize to Trump didn't deserve it in the first place. Mark Francis says, let's rebuild Newark or East Philly or any other city instead of Venezuela. Disrupt Daily says, Machado would have given him her prize and still gotten thrown under the bus. Yeah, and although with Trump, he's such an egomaniac that maybe she wouldn't have. Maybe that would have changed the equation for Trump. But we shouldn't care who has the Nobel Peace Prize. That shouldn't enter into US strategy at all. Yvonne Butterfly Girl says, for goodness sake, when is Congress going to wake up and get rid of this man-child? The US or the rest of the world cannot afford to wait until the midterms. Oh, no, Yvonne, I appreciate you, but there's no way that Congress is going to get rid of him. And before the midterms, 0% chance. Marie La Miserable writes in, it's so cringe when a wet noodle like Graham or Donald tries to act tough.
I know, that's such a good point, and I totally agree.
Yeah. Neil Whittington writes in, we've actually been watching TYT since the Dakota Access Pipeline protest began, catching my new clue with TYT every live YouTube broadcast. TYT rocks.
Thank you for sticking by us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. A lot of people, folks are coming back around and going, well, I guess they had a couple of things right. But you guys stayed the whole time, and I love you for it. And again, without our members, we're nothing. So I appreciate you all. Are we there yet? Writes in on TYT.com. The oil companies are playing hard to get, so Trump ups the ante. They come up with all the reasons why Venezuela is not a good investment to trigger the US to pay their costs. Just like my first love played hard to get and made me up the ante. I like how we got personal there at that. Right. But yes, the oil companies are like, well, this guy's giving us everything. That was the best campaign donations we ever made. So you know what? Hey, make the American taxpayers pay for the rebuilding of the infrastructure. Yeah, that's my cost, but why should I pay it when I've got the American taxpayers as suckers? I just bought their bitch ass politicians. And so that's Trump in this case. Cypher says, I'm so thankful to TYT gives the facts and the whole picture. I want accurate information, but I don't have time to do all of this research. Thank you, I love everyone at TYT. Well, again, can't appreciate you more because we do a lot of hard work on getting the research right. And so we love that you appreciate it. Newfie Dragon says, one of the biggest problems is that the CIA virtually answers to no one and billions of dollars, ... Yeah, it was never a good idea to have a secret organization unaccountable to anyone that just gets tons of money and can do whatever they want with it. Guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna serve their own interests, not the American interests. Super obvious. Ernest Flower Child said, Venezuela is like Vietnam's big brother. Mountainous jungle, well-armed, dedicated resistance. Yeah, I'm super worried about it. All right, guys, what I want to tell you guys about Noble Mobile, as I told you earlier, and I keep telling you, I'm super proud of it because I think that you guys are gonna save a lot of money over the long run. tyt.com/switch. So if you just check your cell phone bill. If it's over $50, go and do it right away. And now they're offering a $50 bonus on top. tyt.com/switch. All right, back on TYT, Jen and Anna with you guys. More news.
Well, Megyn Kelly going off script, and that's a good thing. Let's get to it.
When I was at Fox News, which was a long time, 14 years, I would have known exactly what to do in the wake of Trump's attack in Venezuela, his retrieval, shall we say, to put it in mild terms, of Nicolas Maduro. I would have known that I was supposed to cheerlead it. And I turned on Fox News yesterday, and I'm sorry, but it was like watching Russian propaganda.
Megyn Kelly is not wrong, and we'll show you the goods in just a moment, but she did have some harsh words for her former place of employment, Fox News, and her former colleagues, presumably. Now, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, look, you gotta watch the whole thing because she's basically now dishing dirt, as Tucker is too, about Fox News and what they were really up to. But you already saw something super consequential. She just told you she would know what to do if she was at Fox News. They don't have independent judgment there. They are ordered to say certain talking points, and they are almost always on behalf of the donors, the rich, the powerful, etc. And now you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. You're hearing former Fox News anchors say, of course, and now that we're independent, that's not our real opinion and never was. And that's kind of damning of everyone involved.
I mean, it is damning of everyone involved, but I'm not trying to provide cover for the hosts, but I also understand what it's like to need to earn a living, right? And getting very comfortable at your place. And I'm not talking about TYT. Obviously, I've been here forever and I want to be here. But there have been other situations in which you find yourself needing to make extra money and not really loving your situation, but you don't really have a choice. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's come up, and so I don't really begrudge people for needing to earn a living, even if they're in a situation where they're feeling pressure to say certain things they might not believe.
Yeah, I get it. So look, Anna's gonna give you this story, but I'll also add at the end the pressure I had when I was a host on MSNBC. And so, I think it's a double-edged sword. I mean, like you could say, oh yeah, there's pressure and you gotta earn a living, but also some of these guys make $20 million a year.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Right.
But you get used to that money. You get used to that money, right?
Yeah, and by the way, on a sense, you don't need the money anymore after you've done that a couple of years. On the other hand, it's awfully tough to turn down $5 million a year, $20 million a year.
You did it. Maybe not 5 million, but you turned down a pretty lucrative contract with MSNBC back when it was called MSNBC.
So I want to tell you about the people that still stayed on MSNBC and the deal that they really had to do, like the Fox deal.
Yeah, well, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about what Megyn Kelly has to say about what the Trump administration just carried out in Venezuela.
I love our military as much as anyone, and I believe in President Trump, but there are serious reasons to just exercise a note of caution before we just get on the rah-rah train. All right, I have done that enough times in my career as a Fox News anchor to have been embarrassed enough to know I'm gonna stay on the yellow light for this.
So I really do commend her for being honest about that, because it doesn't just make Fox look bad. I mean, it's self-deprecating because she is conceding that she would go along with it, right? And look, I'm sure she feels way more liberated now because she has her own podcast. It's tremendously successful and she's her own boss. So she doesn't have to kowtow to anybody, and that's amazing. Anyway, but at the same time, I do want to add just one quick thing. A lot of people who have their own independent shows do still feel pressure. It's just that their pressure is from the audience, right? So audience capture is very real. I think our audience has become accustomed to me not really caring about them getting upset at my opinions. I'm gonna share my opinions no matter what. I've always been that way. But a lot of people don't want to deal with backlash from their audience, so they kind of go along with what their audience wants.
I mean, look, at this point, you could argue in a sense that like, since people know us for being independent and we'd like to think honest, we try our hardest, and now a lot of people are acknowledging it, right? They agree, disagree, but they know we're being honest with them because we don't get audience captured and we don't get captured by any of these interests. And I think that's why people do come to us. So we have that advantage, so that's great. But I want to go back to Venezuela for a second.
Yes.
And it actually is somewhat related to the audience capture. There's a reason why Megyn Kelly's at a yellow light. And yesterday we showed you Posobiec, Steve Bannon, even Sagar and Jetty, all at a yellow light, okay? And that's partly because some portion of their audience is saying, wait, we're anti-war, right? But other portions of their audience is saying, oh, this was awesome, man. We bombed things, we killed people, and we kidnapped him. We're America, we're strong. And a lot of MAGA did love what happened, and Trump's popularity has gone up.
It has, yes.
So that's why they're like, yellow light, right? And to be fair to them, by the way, I get it. Because we don't know, is this all, or are we gonna get sucked into a quagmire and have ground troops? So to be fair to them, a yellow light is warranted.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got it at a total red light, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. And look, I much prefer her commentary here as opposed to what we heard from Megyn Kelly. And honestly, I found it tasteless and I really didn't like it when she was egging on, cheering on the strikes against random fishing boats that didn't even have the capacity to make it to the United States. And so she unfortunately believed the Trump administration's lies about how, those are really dangerous drug trafficking boats. But at least here, she's like, wait, pause. I heard her condemn the notion of sending ground troops to Venezuela. And she also pointed to Iraq and Libya as two examples of American foreign policy failures. She has Glenn Greenwald on the show regularly, and Glenn Greenwald's pretty great on foreign policy issues. So I'm really happy to see him on her show on a regular basis. Now, let's take a quick trip over to Fox News and see what their coverage is looking like.
There was a time when conquest was celebrated for God, for King, for glory, for Americans. There's no such thing as stolen land. There's no such thing as international law. There's only such thing as conquest. And if it serves Americans, then so be it. We rule the jungle. We are the lion.
If you don't use it, you lose it. And that goes for Greenland, and it also goes for all the oil that Venezuela has. And Denmark better wise up. They should sell it to us, lease it to us, so we can run it together. Who cares? But we need it more than they do. Same with the oil.
America and the world is a safer, freer place. And this administration, they're making no apologies, nor should they.
In fact, taking Maduro into custody, I argue, was quintessentially MAGA.
International law doesn't matter, stealing land doesn't matter. Interesting. Now, China has grown its influence considerably and has made quite a bit of investment in growing their military capacity and capability. So if they manage to build their military up to the point where they're a formidable foe to the United States, military foe to the United States. By the way, as the United States continues bleeding out on the international stage because of all these foreign entanglements we get involved in, and because of the fact that our Federal Reserve keeps printing money to pay for all of this crap, is Fox News gonna say, hey, this should be celebrated, conquest should be celebrated? There is no international law. There is no international law.
Okay, guys,
it's pathetic.
I mean, it's actually quite obvious. So I remember fighting the Nazis because we did care about international law and land conquest. And it was not such a great thing that they were the lion and they took Austria and Poland and Belgium and etc. So now they're coming back around and going, who cares, man? If you're strong like the Nazis were, just take it, right?
Thievery is apparently totally okay.
Yeah.
So who cares about the shoplifting, chains, and like all? Who cares? There is no law.
Law of the jungle. They're the lions. They're the guys going in and apparently stealing stuff at CVS and stuff. They're saying, now I'm the lion. What are you going to do about it?
There is no law.
There is no law. As Matt Walsh said yesterday, international law is gay and fake. Okay, now,
oh my God.
Okay, so he's a buffoon. I got it, right? But look at this. This is Fox News, and they're all saying it. They all have the same talking point. Ignore the law. Let's note for the record that these are the guys who base their entire party on the rule of law. And law and order, that's what Republicans, the right wing's about. Law and frickin' order. Unless, of course, it's law we don't like, in which case it's gay and we ignore it, okay? So last analogy here. I'm trying not to bring Israel into this, but okay, so Israel loves this kind of talk. Who cares? Conquest, just take their land. Kill their people, take their land. But wait. What if it's us or our allies? Now, of course, America is very hard to kill and take our land, right?
For now.
But what if the Arab countries or Iran or Russia or China decided, you know what, I think you guys are right, and I'm not gonna take Taiwan, they're too small an economy. I'll take Israel. So would all of those commentators and all those pundits come out and go, who cares? Law of the jungle. Russia took Israel, and they should take Israel. Conquest, they're the lion, and Israel is the lamb, and I'm glad they were slaughtered. No, you know what they would say? They would say, America, you have to defend it. You have to, I don't care how many men die. I don't care how many trillions of dollars you have to spend. International law has been breached. Our beloved Israel has been attacked, right? So I'm just saying that it's obvious that it's contextual. If you feel like you're a little stronger, yeah, you want to break the law. But there's a reason why the law exists. Because one day you're not going to be stronger. In certain contexts, you're not stronger. And we're gonna have chaos and anarchy with everyone attacking one another if there is no international law. And you know who created international law? We did, America did. We should be super proud of that because it has brought down conflict since 1945. We nearly murdered all of us in 1945 in World War II. And we've avoided World War III until now. Why? Because we had international law.
Yep. And just to take it back to Megyn Kelly for 1 second, there's nothing better than freedom. And when you have your own thing going and you're your own boss, that's freedom. So exercise that freedom and say what you really think. And I'm happy to see that she's doing that.
Yeah, and last thing is because I promised you super quick and become a member, I'll tell you the full story. At MSNBC, you always knew where the guardrails were. And if you didn't know it, they would politely remind you and then not so politely, and then they'd have meetings about it, etc. So every host on MSNBC knows, for example, for 20 years straight, you could not criticize Democratic leadership. If you did, you were gonna be in trouble. So they know that there's only a certain amount of opinion they're allowed on MSNBC or on Fox News or on CNN. And they all know instinctually, if I don't wanna risk my millions of dollars in salary, I'm gonna be a good boy and good girl, and I'm gonna tell you that Pelosi and Biden are the greatest thing in the world, and they're super young, and the Republicans are the real enemy, and don't worry about lobbyists or money or corporations, etc. So they're doing propaganda in those places. And if you try to do anything outside of the propaganda, you'll be fired.
Yep. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about how some of the more prominent Israel supporters are very concerned about the growing disdain Americans have toward Israel and how they don't want to keep funding their atrocities. We'll tell you who it is and what he's really worried about when we come back.
All right, let's go to super chat. DJ Payne writes, "The Nobel Peace Prize is worth less than trash. Throw it away." Bachelored out of work says Trump and politicians, these greasy-necked fatheads waddling around in suits that are about to pop like overripe tomatoes. From the collar up, it's all shiny blubber with brains drowned in lobbyist grease and fast food slop. They don't speak real English anymore, just pure corruption, grunting for bribes, burping out billions in shady deals. Actual problems like jobs, healthcare, or building homes for Americans, they couldn't care less. Total snooze. Instead, they're huffing and puffing, chasing fake enemies like windmills or whatever BS scares up the fattest donor checks that week.
I don't know if you're a professional writer, but that was reminiscent of Matt Taibbi before he became pathetic. Please consider doing political reporting. That was really good.
Yeah, God bless, man. That was good writing. Yeah. Kane's World writes in on YouTube member section. I feel like the more I hear each of these TV news talking heads give their opinions on Iraq 2, Havana Nights, I like that as a title of the movie, the lower my IQ is dropping. Yeah, for a lot of us. Matrix Elmo writes in on Twitch, if we nationalize the oil, I would understand MAGA's argument. As of right now, we get nothing but movie clips.
Even worse, we're funding the capture of that oil on behalf of oil companies and refineries.
Yeah. Velvet Goldmine says, this is why we need to switch to renewable energy sources. Let's stop paying sociopaths to destroy the planet.
Nuclear.
That's an idea. And it would be funny though if we started using solar energy as our main source of energy. Some neocon would be like, should we invade the sun?
I mean, don't put it past them.
Yeah, and then in which case I would say to them, you do you, boo.
Yeah,
have at it. You know what? You're gonna need ground troops. Go ahead. You go first. Now to our viewers at TYT.com and our members there, the one true coffee dragon said, I started watching TYT the first time Trump won back in 2015. The best part is I found TYT thanks to YouTube's algorithm, which sent me to TYT via Dave Rubin video.
What?
So see, he can be useful. A real broken clock, that guy.
He's useful for comedic relief, and in this one case, directing you to our programming. By the way, lately the algo is kind of working against us, maybe because we're doing so much reporting on Israel and stuff like that. So if you are watching us live, please help us out by simply liking and sharing the stream, please.
Yeah, and if you watch any videos or clips on YouTube, also if you can like, share, etc., it does make a big difference. Art Guy wrote in, all of Trump's surrogates are having to work overtime trying to change the narrative every time he blurts out, it's the oil.
Okay, let me tell you something that he just posted. He just posted this about an hour ago. I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over 30 and 50 million barrels of high quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at market price, and that money will be controlled by me as the president of the United States of America to ensure it is used to the benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately.
All right, back on TYT, Jing and Anna with you guys, and a new member on YouTube whose handle I love, Eternally Uncertain. Okay, good for you. You should be uncertain until you get enough information to be certain.
No, I love that. That's exactly right. This is a random question. I'm not that great with geography. How long does it take to get from Philadelphia to Atlantic City, New Jersey?
Not that long. They're pretty close to one another.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got to talk about this Elliot Abrams guy. So, Trump's former envoy to Venezuela and Iran, Elliot Abrams, recently expressed deep concern. He is very much worried that the shifting public opinion in the United States toward Israel will threaten a boatload of American taxpayer dollars being funneled to Israel. Let's take a look.
How do you assess the future of the U.S.-Israel bilateral security partnership? It's certainly in some ways at an all-time high, or relatively speaking right now, but there's also headwinds.
It's a very important question because you have new opposition to Israel and U.S.-Israel relations and the U.S.-Israel alliance in both parties now that you didn't have last time we went through this exercise.
Now, he's going to blame anti-Semites for the growing criticism of Israel in just a moment. But before we get to that, Cenk, your 2 cents?
He's going to blame anti-Semites. Of course he is. So as you're going to see here, Israel wants to take another $100 billion off of us. And so their strategy is, if anyone disagrees, let's just smear them. Let's call them anti-Semites and ruin their life. Right?
Yeah, cheapen that label, and it doesn't work anymore. So congratulations.
Yeah, and so, but also another thing that's interesting there is the interesting pretending about how at some point they might stop robbing us. Okay, so I'm sorry, Elliot Abrams, was that anti-Semitic? So when Israel already took 300 billion from us, was that what was that? What, because we owed them? Well, why did we owe them? Hey, why don't you give us the 300 billion back? How about that?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, go ahead.
So the current 10-year memorandum of understanding, MOU as it's referred to, between Israel and the United States gives Israel around $3.8 billion a year. The top recipient of foreign aid, by the way, from the United States. And it's in the form of defense aid, but it expires pretty soon. In 2028, it'll be expiring. So this figure, by the way, I should note, does not include the additional tens of billions of dollars that the United States has funneled to Israel to commit its atrocities in the Middle East since October 7th. And now Israel is reportedly looking to sign a 20-year 2-decade-long MOU with America, and Israeli officials hope the next package will include even more in annual assistance.
Of course.
I mean, it's just, they disgust me beyond words. By the way, the genocide in Gaza is ongoing. In fact, just yesterday, I shared a video that was posted by Dropsite News featuring a child who was shot in the head by IDF forces.
Terrorists.
They're terrorists. They're terrorists that we're funding. So I don't want to hear a damn word about, the global threat of terror from right-wingers who want to drag the United States into more wars paid for by American taxpayers. Anyway, unsurprisingly, that plan for a 20-year MOU has the backing of people like Senator Lindsey Graham, which is the most unsurprising thing in the world, who told the Jerusalem Post the following. Some in Israel, I think including Prime Minister Netanyahu, think these days that Israel should downgrade the next MOU when it comes to the dependence on the United States. Big mistake. By the way, that's a lie. They don't think that. Netanyahu is pushing for a 20-year MOU and he wants more money. Like, why are you lying?
Because he's Lindsey Graham and he works for the Israelis.
Right, that's true. He says, big mistake. The day it is seen in Washington that you really don't need us is a big mistake. The people you're trying to please will never be pleased. And it seems as though Elliot Abrams, a neocon of course, and a major supporter of Israel is on the same page. But during this conversation with the Jewish Institute for National Security of America, he argued that anti-Semitism could absolutely derail a new MOU guaranteeing more years of US military aid for Israel. Take a look.
It really should be discussed. That's going to happen under President Trump. And it's going to happen in this new context of both criticisms of the alliance in a serious way and suggestions in a serious way, and a kind of disgusting anti-Semitism on the left and right that was not part of the background to the last round.
And look, while he is openly expressing concern about critics of Israel on the right and the left and how it could potentially derail a new MOU, in reality, he really doesn't think that the dissent is strong enough to make a real difference. Let's go to graphic 4 here, where he says that Trump has been insistent that he and he alone defines what MAGA means. I don't think the problem will be the Trump administration or the MAGA voters who in all polls are strongly supportive of Israel. It will be the Democrats whose representatives in Congress have cast votes in the last 2 years that suggest limiting aid to Israel. I want to be clear, there is a big fracture among Trump's base. Yes, there are the cucks, for lack of a better word, people like Cat Turd, for instance, who go along with anything and everything Trump does. But there is a growing faction of Trump's base that sees what's happening for what it is, that our resources are being funneled to a foreign country that has undue influence over our system of government, over our politicians, and basically to the detriment of the American people. And to those people, I want to applaud them, I want to laud them, because waking up to this reality is really important for us to get our country back. We do not live in a sovereign country. We live in a country that is ruled and controlled and manipulated by the nation state of Israel. And I think that's wrong.
I actually think that that's the best compliment the Democratic Party has gotten in a long, long time.
Agreed.
Saying, oh, they're harder to control than MAGA is. You just control Trump and Trump tells them what MAGA is, and then they all follow along like lemmings and serve us instead of America, right? So thank you for the confession, we appreciate it. So now to the core of the issue. He says, so for the memorandum of understanding, the last one was 10 years long, so 3.8 over 10 years, obviously 38 billion, right? They're saying they want more this time. So it's unclear if it's going to be 4 billion, 5 billion, or maybe even more. So probably though in that ballpark, so that since it's over 20 years, that's 80 to 100 billion dollars. I would be shocked if they didn't ask for at least 100, okay? So what Elliot Abrams is saying is both on the left and the right, so the whole country, you're all disgusting anti-Semites unless you give Israel $100 billion. Like the nerve of that is really amazing. But since almost all of national media says the same thing, they feel empowered and emboldened to say outrageous things like this. Take out Israel, put in any other country, and if they said America owes Bulgaria $100 billion, otherwise you're all racist against Bulgarians, everyone would laugh their ass off. And you'd be escorted from the building and then probably to a mental asylum, right? Any other country do that game any way you like. You could say Canada, you could say Portugal, it doesn't matter. But they have this trick, yes, it's a trick, but to be fair to them, they really, a lot of them, most of them don't know it's a trick. They really believe it. Like they think, well, if you don't give me all your money, you hate Jews. You have to give me all your money. You had to give me 300 billion. And again, any other country, if France said, you owe me $300 billion, otherwise you're racist against the French, we'd escort them to an asylum, right? So here he's like, no, I demand it. Otherwise, all Americans are anti-Semites.
Okay, great. We're anti-Semites then.
Okay, then piss off.
Then
Get out of here.
anti-Semitism means absolutely
Then why
nothing.
are you here?
I'm not a slave to Israel, okay? We're not slaves to a genocidal regime. I mean, what kind of disgusting, like allegation is that if the American people want their resources to remain within the United States to benefit the American people, why am I working and paying taxes for a disgusting genocidal regime? I can't stand Israel. I can't, and I don't mind saying that out loud. Watching people being maimed, slaughtered, mutilated, watching Israeli prison guards and IDF soldiers gang rape prisoners. That's who they are. They're disgusting people, and I don't mind saying it. By the way, 53% of Republicans, according to a recent YouGov poll, under 45, and 42% of all Republicans say that the United States should not renew the MOU, while just 24% want it renewed.
Because who wants to be robbed?
Who wants to be a slave?
Why don't we keep the $100 billion?
Yeah.
Why are you guys not anti-American racists for not giving us $100 billion? Why don't we get some of it? No, take. Hey, Elliot, if the whole country's anti-Semitic, why don't you leave? Like, and I'm just like, wouldn't you be worried? Oh my God, everybody's an anti-Semite. You didn't give me your wallet. Oh, he didn't give me his wallet. What an anti-Semite. Well, then go to Israel where there's no anti-Semites, and then you could keep your own money, right? And everybody's fine. Nope, he's got to stay here. He's got to start wars for Israel. And in the case of Elliot Abrams, it is very literal. He was one of the top neocons that drove us to go into Iraq. And the Israeli prime minister at the time said Iraq was their #1 enemy, and we took him out for us, for them, for Israel, which Elliot loves, because Elliot loves Israel, not America. By the way, that sick son of a bitch was also part of the Iran-Contra affair. You know who else was part of the Iran-Contra affair? Israeli intelligence. And who was at the very middle of the Iran-Contra affair? Jeffrey Epstein. So there are a number of people inside this country that do not work for America, they work for Israel. And their whole job is to take as much money off of us as they possibly can. We spent $8 trillion on the global war on terror. That was a global war on Israel's enemies. So the 100 billion MOU is chump change to them. They're like, we got these suckers to spend trillions murdering our Muslim neighbors so we can take more of their land.
Yeah, and don't forget the American soldiers who died as a result of that. Final thing I'll say about this, and then we'll move on to Dan Bongino. Don Bacon is upset that AIPAC Tracker has uncovered how much money he has accepted from the Israel lobby. He calls it anti-Semitic, to which I say, fry bitch. Okay, like you don't like it, don't accept the money. It's not anti-Semitic for the American people to know who funds you, who pays for you to dance for them like a little prostitute.
So Don Bacon is saying, if you point out the fact that I take at least 1.3 million from the Israeli lobby, then you're an anti-Semite. But brother, you took the money. It's a literal fact. And he's like, no, I am such a holy and moral person that even though I took the money from Israel, millions and millions of dollars, and I vote with them every single time like a dog, I secretly represent the people of Nebraska. And I'm, it's just that I happen to love Israel so much, unconnected to the millions of dollars. Hey, Don, we're not idiots like mainstream media reporters. They're like, oh, okay, that's good, yeah, he loves America. He just happens to believe that we should give all of our money to Israel. No, you're a crook, you're corrupt. And by the way, I did a post on it today. Almost all the right wing agrees. Don Bacon is a piece of crap who works for a foreign government and is a traitor to America. But to be fair to him, almost 94% of Congress gets money from the Israeli lobby. And if you point out that fact, oh, you hate Jews. Brother, we didn't say anything about Jews. You stop driving hatred towards Jewish Americans. It isn't the Jews, it's you, Elliot Abrams. You're the problem. You're the disgusting person who wants to rob us and who got us into nonstop trouble. Don't blame it on other Jews. We didn't say them, we said you. Get the hell out of our country, Elliot Abrams. You've done enough damage already. And you know what that son of a bitch said? He's like, well, I think it's a mistake to not go for a longer period of time. But when the 20-year MOU is up, it'll be 2048, and at that point we could begin to discuss whether we should not get any more funding from America.
I'll be 60.
2048.
60.
2048. They are debating whether they should rob us through 2048 or past 2048. I say end it now. Not one more dollar for Israel. Not one more dollar of that robbery.
I agree with that. All right, we're running out of time, so we can't do.
No, do it.
Let's do it. Can we do it at the top of joy? It's a joyful story. It's a joyful story.
Let's just do it. Let's not waste time. Let's do it.
All right. Let's get Dan Bongino. Let's get into it.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this, and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. I stare at these four walls all day in DC, by myself, divorced from my wife, not divorced, but I mean, separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
Well, in less than a year, Dan Bongino, the former now deputy director of the FBI, has called it quits. And now he is making all sorts of threats about going after black pillars who are trying to hijack MAGA and the MAGA movement. But aren't you part of the reason why people are black-pilled now? Because you were part of the Epstein files cover-up? Anyway, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, he's now going to try to convince us that Matt Gaetz is a secret left-winger.
Right, yes.
Okay, sure, yeah. All right, so but I guess you don't have any choices left once you become a bitch. So let's talk about it.
So he announced in mid-December that he'd be stepping down from his role as deputy FBI director, but his official departure came the same day as Nicolas Maduro's kidnapping and capture. So he wrote on X that it was a busy last day on the job. This will be my last post on this account. Tomorrow I return to civilian life. It's been an incredible year thanks to the leadership and decisiveness of President Trump. It was the honor of a lifetime to work with Director Patel and serve you, the American people. See you on the other side. But Bongino's civilian life doesn't mean peace and quiet. It means that he's threatening your political enemies, or he's threatening his political enemies and declaring war on people who he claims are trying to hijack MAGA. So he says, good to see you all, I missed you, thanks for everything, blah, 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 blah. A couple of things, thank you for your interest in the show. He really wants to get back to doing his show. And its return date, we will have something for you soon. The Trump team is not kidding around. It's an otherworldly experience from the other side. He's determined and focused, and having been around quite a few presidents, this one broke the mold. If we blocked you, it's because we care so little about your BS that we deem it not worthy of even seeing. If you're bitching and whining about it, it means you can't exist without seeing and commenting on ours. You'll need to get over that. We do it because there's nothing black pillars and anti-Trumpers want more than to create division and drama. We're about results, except for the release of the Epstein files, of course. And we'll talk about some of it soon. And later he clarified his post, basically adding that, from the jump, let me add this from the jump so there's no confusion. I stated in this movement that as a candidate during the Tea Party movement, and I began my political commentary career shortly thereafter. I helped build this movement, and I sure as hell am not going to let it get hijacked by a group of black pillars, life losers, grifters, and bums. And then he did go after Matt Gaetz. I don't have elements for that, but do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so he called Matt Gaetz a grifter and implied that he was one of these life losers, etc. So he's a grifter and he's not really on our side, he says. So is Matt Gaetz a secret liberal? Is that the contention? So the Trump team, when they say Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey and Matt Gaetz and Tucker Carlson or whoever else they say is not really on the right, that's just saying we're lying, right? So we're obviously lying. So this is a helpful hint to you as to who's actually on the right and who isn't, who's an establishment bitch and an uniparty clown, and who's actually MAGA and America first. So no, there's no one on planet Earth that thinks Matt Gaetz is some sort of secret liberal, right? So you're obviously lying to us, and then it makes me wonder why. So, and then you say you delivered. What did you deliver? You didn't deliver, you delivered a giant tax cut for the rich, right? You delivered more wars. Where's the anti-war part? Where's the Epstein files? Where is something for the American people? Where have you gotten prices under control? You did nothing, you did nothing. And at the FBI, your job was to cover up for the establishment and the elites and Jeffrey Epstein, and that's what you did. So you're gonna own it the rest of your life, Dan. There's nothing you could do that's gonna take that stain off of you. And you could tell you, I got my show back. And my new show is The Establishment is Awesome. And you guys shouldn't find out who raped those girls. And you should shut up about it, because you know what, there wasn't anyone. It was a hoax. Yeah. Why don't you just call yourself the Deep State with Dan Bongino?
That's exactly right. I mean, he built a name for himself by focusing on the Epstein files, focusing on the blackmail operation. And then here's the thing, and it's actually very blackpilling. When these outsiders find themselves in a position of power, they find themselves on the inside, it's real difficult to change the system from the inside, I feel like.
Yeah, well, look, what it would require is courage.
Courage, exactly.
But it looks like some people are running very short on that supply. So, brother, when you get in there, did you think it was gonna be a cakewalk? Did you think they were gonna be like, here's Dan Bongino. He's been complaining about the Epstein files for about a decade. Here's the files, Dan, and go ahead and publish them. No, they pull you aside and they go, now listen, Danny boy, you're gonna shut up, okay? Is it the intelligence agencies? Of course it is, you schmuck. And what are the intelligence agencies? The deep state. And your job now for the rest of your life is to cover up for the deep state. You're to pretend that there was no intelligence agencies involved, even though Jeffrey Epstein was in the middle of the Iran-Contra affair. How many civilians were in the middle of exchanging planes between American and Israeli intelligence? 0, no civilians. So Dan, go ahead, lie for the rest of your life and be their bitch that they walk around and go, oh no, there's nothing to see. All the powerful people have your best interest in mind. I'm gonna enjoy you walking around and simping for the elites. Go ahead, or you can tell the truth about what happened. Because you did say at one point that what you saw at the FBI was the most amazing, horrific thing you've ever seen, and you were traumatized by it, and you could barely recover from it. And now you're gonna tell us, oh, that was nothing. That was nothing, Dan? I didn't say it, you said it, right? So what you're saying is, I saw some things that made me wet my pants, and now I'm a coward, and I will never, ever defy the deep state again.
That's exactly right. So good luck with your show. Congratulations on being reunited with your wife. We gotta go. Operation Joy is next. I have a fun hummingbird video. You don't wanna miss it. Come right back.
All right, so on Tuesdays we do a thing called Operation Joy. We used to just do it for the members, but we've opened it up for everyone. So write in, tell us what gave you joy so we can spread it around, or if you've got a question as to how to get there, etc. I was on the I've Had a podcast today, and at the end they said it felt like a therapy session because I did a little bit of Operation Joy at the end, a tiny bit, but it was good. So as usual, I'll read a couple of comments left over from the show. They're Operation Joy adjacent. Then I'll read you some comments from tyt.com/joy, and we'll get rolling. So on Super Chat, HLHIV, which is definitely not Joy adjacent, but wrote in, spoiler alert, JFK wanted to disband the CIA. Yep.
Wait, who did? Sorry, I missed that.
JFK. Yeah, and so read The Devil's Chessboard. It's about JFK's assassination. It was almost certainly ex-CIA, current CIA guys. Who else they were working with, that's a different question, and I don't know it. But did Allen Dulles orchestrate it, the former head of the CIA that JFK fired? An overwhelmingly likely scenario, and our government's been lying about it from ever since. Justice Marcellus says, Jank, Anna, champions. Well, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Brandon Young Kimkes said, Anna, my niece looks like a little like you. She just hopes she grows up to be as smart.
Oh, come on. Thank you. She will be smarter. Okay, but thank you for the comment. Very sweet.
Yeah, very nice of you, Brandon. Boxy Brown 6900. Thank you for gifting a membership. You're awesome. Now we go to tyt.com. Dragon Old Balls writes in, Jank, please say hello to my mother, Jan Myers. Today is her first birthday in the nursing home. Hopefully short term, but she's 80 years old and would love a shout out. Oh, I'd be happy to. Jan, first day in the nursery. Okay, Jan, we love you. You crazy? Thanks for being part of our community, and you've got a good son there, or daughter, I don't know. Well, old balls, so assume son. Anyways, you guys are wonderful. We love having you here. All right, Virginia, South Carolina says, thank you, TYT, for your help in getting me through the last few years. With all that has happened in this administration, it's been hard running my nonprofit, but I've been able to keep everything in perspective because of all of you. The entire family of members, staff, and volunteers deserve all the love. Let's have a great new year, guys, and change the world together. Well, I love that, Virginia, and thank you for doing that, and thank you for doing your nonprofits too. And you've got a golden heart. All right, now we go to tyt.com/joy, which should be the top web page in America. Anybody, generally speaking, most people that go on, and almost everybody walks out happier than they went in. So Christina Salazar wrote in, as always, what brings me joy today is hanging out with my cats. So obviously we're gonna take a look, isn't it? And this is when we go, oh.
Cats got a lot of personality, let me just say. They like to jump around.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yes.
They love to hit things with their paws if they're unhappy.
So
or maybe even when they're playful.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, get it here. Yeah, okay.
It's fun.
So Meowsers loves straps. So if you got a little like a takeout bag or something, he's gonna tackle that strap and he's gonna play with it until he rips it. Period. And we've lost a lot of good cables at the house because of Meowsers.
Chewing on them?
Oh, he loves chewing on cables. We're like, no. I know.
That's not good.
I know that's not good. We're trying to stop him at every turn. So anyways, but great to see your cats. All right, let's go to Pincer 1059. Hey, TYT fam, Lindsay here. I wrote in a few weeks ago about how being an emergency veterinary nurse was starting to weigh on me. And I was bringing my thoughts home all too often. I just want to thank Cenk and Anna for reading my comment and making me feel fulfilled again about my chosen career. It's still hard, but you guys made me feel important as a person and an integral human in someone's hardest day. Thank you for reminding me of that. That reminder you guys gave me made the hard days more bearable. Thank you. Much love to all of you TYT hosts and listeners. You're all family to me. Much love, Lindsay from Minneapolis. P.S. I live 3 blocks away from George Floyd Square and walk through there all the time with my dogs. It's a beautiful memorial and very peaceful place. So, Lindsay, I want to say you are one of the very few people who ever wrote in with a question. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for saying that we helped a little bit with your question. So
yeah,
super gratifying. Really appreciate it.
And one other thing I'll say, and I think that your question, and more importantly, the sentiment of your question was something that really, really resonated with me, and I'm sure Cenk as well, because to feel fulfilled in anything that you choose to do, it's challenging, right? Like you have to do challenging things in order to feel fulfilled. If being fulfilled were easy and pleasant, everyone would feel very fulfilled. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, like the work that you do is so important. And I just think about the panic I feel when Charlie is sick and I like rush to the vet. I don't know what's wrong with him. Vets are amazing. So thank you for the work you do. And I totally get what it's like to go through the hard days, but what you do is worth it.
So guys, I think about happiness in two different tracks. I'll get back to the comments in a second. Keep writing in. There's the track of that's obvious to everyone. Okay, you had a euphoric moment, a blissful moment, a happy moment. You ate a food that you liked. You hung out with friends and had a great time, etc. So you get that, and so that is one track of happiness. And by the way, I think it's a really important track, and I don't think we do it enough. And we treat it like it's like a side thing, like, oh, I've got my work and I've got all this stuff, and if I have enough time, maybe I'll be happy for 5 minutes today, or I'll do one night out and enjoy it, etc. Enjoying our life should actually be the main thing. It doesn't mean you don't work, which leads us to the second track, okay? The second track of happiness, in my opinion, is fulfillment. And so that's a huge part of being human. We look for purpose and meaning, and when we find the role that we think is right for us, that gives us purpose, then we feel deeply satisfied. It's part of our being as a species, right? So that's why this whole idea of just focusing on, joys of life and sometimes in the wrong ways with drugs, et cetera, is not a surefire path. Ignoring that completely for just working your whole life is also not a good path. In my opinion, the right thing to do is balance those two things. Find what drives you, what gives you meaning. That means that's the role that you were built to do, right? And do that and get fulfillment out of that. And at the same time, fill up like there's mortar in a building, like you got the bricks, the mortar that fills it in. Fill up the mortar of your life with bliss. Okay.
Oh, I like that. That's a good quote. Fill up the mortar of your life with bliss.
Okay, all right, God bless.
Like
Does that make sense overall?
Of course, yeah, it does make sense.
And so this, again, that's partly what I quickly mentioned at the end of the I've Had a podcast, which is that we have the wrong definition of success. We're constantly, everybody assumes, are you successful means you have some sort of status, right? Are you a CEO, a senator, or this or that? What, a doctor, a lawyer, right? Do you have money, wealth? Well, okay, Elon Musk is really successful. Is he? Is he happy? Does he look like he's enjoying life? I don't know. Maybe he might be really fulfilled, by the way, but he seems like a nervous wreck every time I see him, right? Yep. And it doesn't seem like he's having a blast. And so, but appearances can be deceptive because a lot of people think I yell and scream and then I'm probably unhappy, but in reality I'm, knock on wood, super happy. But my point is, no, those are just material things and things that we lay out as markers of success.
True, yes.
But actual success is enjoying your life.
Yes, that's so true.
Right? All right, so let's go to PYT for TYT. So back to comments that were left on tyt.com/joy. They're saying, my recent joy has been my Camp Snap camera. My husband bought me this camera for my birthday. It's essentially a never-ending disposable. There's no screen and it has a toggle for a different setting standard. Standard, 2 vintage settings, black and white. I really wanted this as I dabbled with film in the past, but the expense of it is too great now. I also love taking photos, but don't want my son to see my phone always in my hand. It's fun to upload the images to the computer later and see what you captured. On a recent snow day, I took some photos of my son in mine and my brother's snowsuit from the 90s. I just love the nostalgic quality of the pictures, and now I can always remember the fun we all had playing in the snow that day. Love to all from Jenks' home state of New Jersey.
I love like those photos with the vintage feel. That is such a cool picture.
And that really, for me, that looks so New Jersey. I know it could look like anywhere, but that looks like a picture straight out of Freehold.
Look, it's a beautiful photo. It looks miserable, way too cold, way too snowy.
No, it doesn't, it looks awesome.
I don't like the snow, but I like beautiful photos, so I will allow it.
Well, congrats, she has allowed it.
It sucks to be cold. I hate being cold.
So we went to.
Christian keeps leaving the window open at night and I don't like it.
Oh, I love it when it's cold. Hashtag go Christian.
I go and sleep on the couch.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, look, you got to get to a place where both people are comfortable. But me, I love snuggling under the blankets when it's cold.
But it doesn't. But you don't get warm enough. The blankets aren't enough.
Why don't you get thicker blankets? Then it's even more fun snuggling underneath.
My
and being
blankets are
super
plenty thick. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm just trying to look at my Anyway, so we went to Universal Studios on Saturday, and it turned out to rain. And so, in fact, my nephews were going to join me, a nephew and niece, and we sent them a picture of me soaking wet, going, "Don't come." Okay, it's a good thing we went earlier. But anyways, so we had a fun time anyway, and the lines were shorter, obviously, and it was super memorable. But me and the kids get back home, and there was nothing, and Joy and Pro wanted to stay longer, and they wanted to stay under the rain for 20 minutes to buy a freaking giant donut from the Simpson thing, right? And so, okay, fine, I'm such a softie, and I let them do that. We get home, Joy's like, "I think I have hypothermia." I'm like, "It's like 59, okay? It's maybe 61 degrees." Okay.
I would have taken that seriously.
Yeah, so anyways, the whole point of that story was, but when we got home and we got in dry clothes and we lied down on the couch, it was the best feeling in the world. Oh, when you're warm and dry and you did some activity that was exciting, and then you're curled up on the couch or in your bed. Joy like passed out for like 3 hours. And
I know, but like you can just be warm and dry the whole time.
You don't appreciate it as much until you've sat in the rain for the last 6-8 hours.
It's kind of like how I feel on those summer days when the AC here is blasting, and it's summertime, so I come into work wearing a summery dress, not a big sweater. And then I'm freezing, the show ends, I race to my car, and it's so hot in the car because it's like baking in the sun. And I just leave the windows up and I melt in the car.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
It feels so good.
Okay, the only time that I've done something like that is for counterintuitive reasons. So when we were kids in East Brunswick, back to Jersey, we would play basketball or softball or whatever, and we'd get so hot because it's like 95 degrees in the summer in Jersey or whatever. Then we'd get in the car, which was just baking, right, in that temperature the whole time. And we wouldn't turn on the AC and we wouldn't lower the windows until we drove to Con or Kenon's house and they had a pool. So you've never been more satisfied than when you get out of a car like that and jump into a cool pool. That's the best feeling. You're like, oh my God, right? Or have a cold Coke afterwards. They should be a sponsor. I mean, look at me, this Coke, you did this to me and you're still not a sponsor? Anyways, all right, go ahead.
All right, I actually had a submission for Operation Joy today. So Christian and I don't live in a house, so we can't have like a nice bird feeder, but we sneakily attached a suction cupped bird feeder to a window of ours. And it was great at first, but it was for all birds that like seed, right? Like finch, house finches, stuff like that, mourning doves. And they like to hang onto the screen of the window and mess it up. So I was like, no more of this, we can't do this. I don't want to replace the screen, no more. But Christian found a good solution, which was, all right, well, we're not gonna see the house finches anymore, we're not gonna see the mourning doves, but what if we do the hummingbird feeder instead? Because the hummingbird isn't gonna hang on to the window screen. And I was like, okay, great. But it takes forever for the birds to find the feeder when you first install it, right? So it's been there for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Today, as we were having our meeting, this happened. Well, I finally saw the first hummingbird discover it. I tried to get a video of it, but it was too late, it flew away. I managed to get a video of a second hummingbird, which tells me that the original hummingbird told his friends, and now they have found the feeder. Take a look. Look at how cute. Look at how cute.
Oh yeah.
Oh, little buddy.
We got a ton of hummingbirds in our backyard.
So cute.
Oh, you like that sugar water. Oh, you're a thirsty boy or girl, I have no idea. Oh, it's so good.
They're so cute. I'm so excited. So that gave me joy. That was my little bit of joy today.
Okay, good. They like the flowers in our backyard, so we can't, there's nonstop hummingbirds in our backyard.
Must be nice. Must be nice to have a backyard. Anyway, I'm just kidding. All right, we've got some comments here as well. Do you want me to read one?
Yeah.
Ryu Rao says, my joy is the messenger my wife and I just got from my 3-year-old daughter's preschool teacher. The too long didn't read is she is very impressed. Oh, you mean message, okay. She's very impressed and happy with her progress in school and can really tell we work with her at home with how to hold pencils, crayons, and reading, especially compared to most of her classmates, really made our day. Dude, I've always wanted to ask you about that. Like the addiction to pride when it comes to your child outperforming other children. Like, have you felt that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's it's interesting that I've never talked about that. That's a good way of entering that topic. Okay, so first off, the old thing that parents do. I don't know if all parents do it or just immigrant parents.
Immigrant parents definitely do it.
Yeah. Oh, did you know? You heard about Tolga's son? Oh, he is getting into best schools.
Yeah, why can't you be like him?
Why can't you be more like him?
Yes.
Okay.
That was my entire childhood, yes.
So what was hilarious though is that I found out a billion years later that some of the parents were saying that about me.
Of course they were. These weaselly parents, man. Like injecting us with all sorts of trauma and unnecessary like competition with our peers. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Although it did make me better at life.
Yeah. What's funny is that those same parents who were apparently telling their kids, why don't you get as good at grades as Cenk, didn't really like me. And
really?
Yeah, so it was kind of weird. Like, but anyways, so do we do that with the kids? Yes, nevertheless, because we're immigrants. No, partly jokingly, like Wendy does it a little bit more straightforward. She has this one friend who's like obsessed, in my opinion, with status. And so, and to be fair to the mom there, she spends like 120% of her life driving the kids to different places and doing all these things,
so
right?
Miserable.
So they got to play violin. They have to do judo or karate or whatever. They have to do a sport. They have to get straight A's.
When do they get to be kids?
That's the thing with me. And I think I want them to do great in school. I want them to have something that they do that they love, I hope, right? Or something that they're good at. But I also want them to enjoy their childhood. Like, having lived life, I know that's the one time you don't have all the adult stress, right? About how to pay the rent, the bills, et cetera, et cetera. And so you should not let that go without deeply soaking it in and getting the most out of it. On the other hand, if you lean in an inch too far in that direction, they're gonna go a mile and then you can't get them to study, et cetera.
Not necessarily, I don't think so. I think there's a good way of striking balance. Like, do your kids really need to be involved in like 58 different extracurricular activities? Like, calm the hell down. How about you pick 1 or 2?
Yeah, and that's what we've done because we kind of natural selection. We don't have the kids aren't that interested in doing 28 different things. We're not that interested in having them do 28 different things. And keeping it real, we're also not interested, as in we don't have the time to drive them to 28 different things, right?
And the money, by the way.
And the money,
that
yes.
That stuff is so expensive. It's outrageously expensive. Like, why? Okay, your kid is involved in some sort of sport. How about one uniform? Why do they need so many different types of uniforms? One uniform.
Yeah, I know. Look, these days, the big cities, the private education is insanity. So it gets like one of Pro's friends' parents were over for New Year's. We were almost high-fiving that the kids didn't go to private school. Because, guys, it's $50,000 a year.
Yep.
Every year. And you could start in elementary school and for every kid. I don't know how anybody has that kind of money. I don't have it. I don't. So
that is an insane amount of money for school. But yeah, and By the way, for people who are cheering on the dismantling of public education, which I will admit, our public education system is flawed, partly because it's been slowly dismantled throughout the years. But nonetheless, if you think it's going to be great to move toward a completely private system, I mean, you think student loan debt is bad now. I don't know what the future holds when it comes to privatized grade school.
No, nobody will be able. It'll go back to the old ways, which is only the rich get an education.
Well, that's exactly what they want.
Right, you'll get a governess, right? And they'll teach your kids either at a fancy place or at home or whatever. And the poors will have to do without education, and same with the middle class. And by the way, here, I'll do a fun prediction. I just popped into my head, but I instantly believe it enough to give a prediction on it. One day they'll start saying, because of AI, don't worry, you don't need to get an education. That the robots and the machines will do all that menial, and they'll try to keep you dumb, right? And it's of course not dumb. We're all the
AI can be manipulated, as we've learned through Israel attempting to manipulate AI for its own benefit.
Yeah.
So it's not, that is so devastating.
Yeah, they want to keep you ignorant.
Back to Joy, back to Joy.
Okay, so look, bottom line is on the kids, you got to do a balance. There's no way around it. I think that's my sense of it. Make sure you are going out and building the snowman and watching movies together and doing all those things. And then, yeah, ask them to get as good a grades as they can. And yeah, I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm not shy about it. I want straight A's, and I think they're capable of it. And if they don't get straight A's, I am disappointed. And so if you think that's too much expectations, yeah, but I believe in them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, and so my dad expected straight A's from me. He didn't always get it, and I don't always get it. But that expectation led me to believe that I was capable of anything and everything, right? And that to me is a huge difference. And I love my dad for putting that in my head.
I would like to announce that I'm very jealous of Black Cat Dragon, who wrote in for Operation Joy to say, I've made it 1 week into the year and have exercised each day. Gonna finally get my health together in 2026.
Oh my God, look, so I have not, but that's because I'm recovering from the knee surgery. But I'm so psyched because I saw the doctor yesterday and he's like, I think you could probably start exercising now, right?
Nice.
I'm like, yes.
But take it easy, nice and slow, you know?
No, basketball immediately, tomorrow.
No, but I don't know if you're joking or not, but like literally that would be Christian. Like Christian will roll his ankle and ice the hell out of it, but the next day he's gonna try to play basketball again. It's like.
You know why? You got to bite back the bug that bit you.
Okay, all right. Ian Gulbis writes in and says, I'm currently eating a yogurt mixed with granola and trail mix, which has given me joy. So you gotta take in the joy wherever you can get it.
100%, and everybody remember, this will be one of the things that a lot of folks that watch TYT Joy will remember, low bar, okay? Make it a low bar for joy, so you don't have to be like, oh my God, I won the lottery, otherwise I'm not happy. Oh, I got a beautiful granola thing, yogurt business. I love it, okay? Low bar, you cleared it to bejesus, okay? And it gave you great joy. I love it.
Dope Intellect says something that actually gave me joy. So thank you for this like circular joy-a-thon. My joy is watching TYT. First started following politics in 2011 and tried watching CNN to get to know politics. I couldn't understand what they were talking about. I prayed that I could find out what's going on and why. Then I found TYT. Joined October 2011. October 2011, and have never looked back. Y'all have made my life immeasurably better and gave me such a sense of purpose. Thank you for writing in. Genuinely, that gave me a lot of joy, fulfillment, and happiness. But now I'm gonna compliment myself. So
good, finally.
I have to say, I do a pretty good job in making complicated political stories and issues easy to digest.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. I think that we've done a pretty decent job at it, and I have a sense of why. Because we try. We try to make it easier for you to understand. Because sometimes it feels like at the newspapers they're writing to kind of show off to one another.
Yes, they do. So like Look, I read the New York Times and stuff like that, right? And I understand what they're saying, but Christian actually said to me once, he's like, I like reading your posts on Substack because you don't try to impress people with like fancy words. Which at first I was like a little offended by it, but then I'm like, yeah, actually I do make a concerted effort to not use ridiculous words. I don't need to impress anyone. I'm trying to tell people what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I mean, so I was talking to somebody about this recently about Democratic politicians. And the example I used was sometimes they'll say things like they're prevaricating. Now, okay, I got it, brother, but you could just say they're lying, okay? And you're saying prevaricating because you want to sound fancy and you want to impress the fancy people around you.
I like that word though, that's a good word.
Okay,
People know what that means.
Sometimes prevaricating makes sense.
Yeah.
And it depends on the context, but 98% of the time, you're better off saying lying because what are you trying to prove, right? Sometimes you're trying to prove, oh no, that's the exact right word, okay? Right. And I love it and I want to use it, right? That's the 2% if you ask me, right? But the other times, just tell people a story that they could all understand in language they all understand. So, and that's not talking down to people. It's talking to them like they're real people. But one of the best compliments we ever got, I still remember it like 20 years later, is when we were on Sirius Satellite Radio, somebody wrote in and said, I feel like I went to a bar and I'm talking to my best friends, but they just happen to know all the news.
Yeah, I love that. I really do love that.
Yeah, and that's how it should feel. Shouldn't be like you went and got a lecture, right? From a professor and you understood 60% of it or whatever, because that stuff is about ego. Telling you the story in a way that's relatable and human is not about ego. People, people look down on me within the media world a lot because, oh, there's the guy who yells and who does this and who does that, and they think maybe I'm a meathead or something, right? No, I'm human is what I am. And so they get trained to be robots, and I want no part of that. So, anyways, love the comment. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we're out.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Okay. All right, guys, don't worry. We'll do it again next Tuesday, and we're 1 for 1 on answering questions. So we will take questions. Hey, I got this situation. How do I feel better about it, etc. And we do have Old School tonight, so make sure you come back in about an hour at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Michael Shore and I will do Old School. So for now,
bye.